Yes. Hello, my beautiful friends. What a freezing day it is, and about to get a lot colder this weekend, but we're glad that you're here and with us as we get cozy to talk about the new arrests that happened in Minnesota. We're going to get into these cases. We can see 3 people have their mugshots now out and available for us, and all of the cases have been unsealed. And so coming up, we're going to get into the unsealed complaint, which looks just like this one, along with the affidavit, which is really kind of the same for all of them. But there was a battle that happened here, and they're now out of custody. But before this whole thing was unsealed, we had the DOJ demanding that they be detained, and stay in custody. And the judge came out and said there's no basis to keep them in custody. And so the DOJ basically was appealing this. The defense responded. We've got all of this queued up here. You can see just a back and forth. The emergency motion for a stay, so saying don't let them out, and they responded, and she's already posting about the memes and things and blah, blah, blah. And so it was dramatic. They're now out of custody, and there's a little bit of something interesting that's cooking on this one, because the charges, I do not believe, are what it seemed they would be, based on the fact that he scratched this out, this judge right here, this section 248A2, a little, no probable cause is what the judge said, right? So we'll have to piece together what that means exactly. I've got the statutes queued up. We'll hear some reaction on this. Oh, also the Black Lives Matter lady got a lawyer. Chantel Louisa Allen. I wonder if she hired someone who is a BLMer or also in that same vein, but we'll come back to that. We've got the church attorneys responding. We've got more allegations of fraud percolating, saying that Walls and Ellison were very aware of this, and a convicted fraudster is now speaking out from jail or prison, wherever she happens to be. But she's speaking out, fingering Walls and Ellison criminally. Now, we also have some clips on that. We have this one. Oh, gosh, just wait till we get to her. Beans and rice. And then Arizona's Attorney General, Chris Mays, said, you know, if you're unhappy that ICE is here, just blast them, man. Essentially, just blast them. Stand your ground. Just blast them. So we'll see why she's wrong and why she's encouraging criminality, courtesy of the Arizona Senate president, who had to comment on this and say, don't follow her advice because you'll go to jail. So I'll unpack that. Then we'll hear some clarification on this 5-year-old kidnapping scam that the media is unpacking. We've got a video of what it's like to be in one of these illegal alien kid camps. Looks pretty nice, actually. And so we'll go through all of that and hear from Bovino himself before we turn our attention back over to Fanone, who yesterday was having a meltdown. I mean, we saw that. Ivan Raiklin, very nice gentleman, walked up to Fanone and said, hey, Michael, extended a gesture of brotherly love, a handshake. Put her here, pal. And he lost it. Spiraled out of control, puffed up his chest, and was about to throw blows had the police not intervened and dragged him out of there. So then Kara Castronova went over from Lindell TV and had some follow-up questions for him. And so we'll see what she had to say about it and see how the facade has fallen. Remember this, when they put him in the suit and tie and they were basically covering up all his tattoos so you didn't realize who he was, and sold him as this neutral, nonpartisan, just honest, independent police officer. Yeah, right. So we'll go through that. And then Barry Loudermilk sent in a couple of letters, actually. Oh, yeah, there's Fanone right there, flipping everybody off and then shoving cops out of the way. Sorry about that. Very loud. Didn't mean to do that. But you can see we got that clip coming up, and it's going to be a loud one. We also then have Barry Loudermilk, who's responding, sending letters to Carlin Younger, who was the person who found the first pipe bomb near the RNC. And then we've got another letter that went out about the Brian Cole pipe bomber sitch, courtesy of the Select Committee, the new Select Subcommittee, on January 6th. So it's going to be a beautiful stream. And are they already appearing on MSNBC? Is that what you're saying? Is that what you're telling me right now? They're already, is Don Lemon's back over there, bringing along his co-conspirators? Great. Well, it's going to be a great stream, my friends. Now, before we get into anything on the day, let's talk about getting healthy and how we can regenerate our bodies. Because as we know, every workout that we have, injury or surgery, creates a microscopic, good and bad little damage inside the body. We've got muscle inflammation, we've got tissue breaking down, and this can peak when we have physical stress, which is why recovery matters just as much as training. That's why we have Regenerate from the Wellness Company, your new recovery resource. And it's the first ever oral triple peptide recovery drop designed for full body healing without injections. And it works by supporting the body's natural repair process through a proprietary called Aquasome peptide delivery system. Look at that. Now at the core is BPC-157. It's a protective peptide known for supporting gut lining, integrity, all while helping tendons, ligaments, and soft tissue, everything recover faster. And alongside that, you've got KPV, another powerful anti-inflammatory tripeptide that helps calm excessive inflammation, restore balance, enhance the regenerative effects of the BPC. And so lastly, this supports flexibility and endurance and tissue repair. And so it's nice. No needles, no mess, just clean liquid drops powered by Aquasome. And it delivers for superior absorption. So if you're ready to recover smarter, go to twc.health/Robert, use code Robert. You're going to save 10% off and you're going to get free shipping. And it's for US residents only, so check it out. twc.health/Robert, use code Robert. And thanks for supporting the sponsor of today's episode and supporting the show. We appreciate you. All right, now we've got some mugshots and some arrest records to attend to. Here we go. Cases unsealed. 3 arrested for invading a Christian church and interrupting the delivery of services to them. And we've been trying to understand what the exact specific charges are. Well, now we've got a bunch of activity in the case. You can see this is the docket. And we had the original complaint, which was filed back on January 20th. And so before we get into the actual filings, I've got all of the back and forth, the complaint, the affidavit, what happened at the initial appearance, everything queued up, including defense motions from these people already saying, we're under attack illegitimately by Trump. We'll go through it all, but here's the docket and the breakdown of how we got where we're at today. So the complaint gets filed. These people invade the church. Don Lemon, whose name is in this, except it's redacted coming up, meaning they had him implicated before the judge said, no, sorry, no dice on him yet. But the DOJ files the complaint, okay? It's got 3 people on it. It's got Nakima Valdez Levy Armstrong. It's got Chantel. It's got William Scott Kelly. We've got all their mugshots here, courtesy of Ali Bradley TV on X. She shares here, this one is William Armstrong Levy. This is Chantel. And then this is William Kelly. Very familiar with this guy, especially from his screeching, demonic, hellish voice coming out of his mouth. So we've got that now. Here is the rest of the docket. Boom, complaint comes in. The judge signs off on an arrest warrant. And I'll show you what that looks like. Then we have a bunch of things happen once they go and pick them up. So let me show you the arrest warrant, where that one is. That's the initial appearance. So many documents. All right, so we see that this is the first thing that dropped. Before the complaint came down and was released today, the complaint drops. Then the arrest warrant comes out. They pick him up. Then the complaint gets unsealed. A bunch of things happen. And so we'll go in that order. So here is the first arrest warrant. It says, okay, Nakima Valdez Levy Armstrong. She's this activist who's been around for a long time. You are now charged by criminal complaint. And in this one, we see there are 2 statutes that are being cited. And this was a little bit of a surprise. We thought, oh, these are all going to be FACE Act violations, but it doesn't look like that's the case at all. So conspiracy against rights to free exercise of religion secured by FACE Act in violation of 18 U.S. Code right there, Section 241, which is conspiracy against rights, and then Section 248A2. Now, that's the stacked charges, okay? 248A2 is the FACE section for the FACE Act violation, and I've got those queued up, and that one is right here. So 248A2, right over here, courtesy of Cornell Law School, says A2, prohibited actions. If you, by force or threat or by physical obstruction, if you intentionally injure, intimidate, or interferes with any or attempts to injure, intimidate, or interfere, all the things at a place of religious worship, right? Ding, you think, oh, that's the one. So why did this judge find that there was no probable cause for that one and then scratch it out? And then instead just rely on this one, which is Section 241, which is conspiracy against rights. Now, to be fair, conspiracy against rights is the much bigger and harsher statute. It's a big one. It's like 10-year maximum versus kind of a sliding scale for a FACE Act violation, where it's if you have priors, it gets worse. If there was like physicality, it's one stage, but if there's violence, it's another penalty, and so on. So this is the more severe case, but it may be harder to prove because now it's not an individual act. It's not like this one person went in and obstructed the church individually and then also was a part of a conspiracy. Now it's just kind of a group charge, Now there's just a conspiracy. You got to prove that they're in it and there was an overt act in furtherance and all the things. All right, so that's a little bit of a surprise because we were expecting them to be stacked on top of one another. And it looks like the judge actually did not do that at all. He said, nope, I'm going to scratch this out. No probable cause, initials of the judge. So we're just moving forward, presumably on the conspiracy against rights, which changes the equation a little bit. I don't know how much, but of course, we'll unpack that as we continue today and read through the complaint. So she gets one arrest warrant. We also see Chantel also got one, and he did the same thing over on hers and said, all right, same thing here. Okay, so once again, no probable cause, and we're going to move forward on conspiracy against rights. So Judge Douglas Miko, who, as a reminder, is married to a woman who works for Keith Ellison. Keith Ellison is the Attorney General, who was on a podcast with Don Lemon and explaining to Don, oh, you're innocent. There's nothing to worry about. You can protest wherever the hell you want, anytime you want. You're Don Lemon, so do whatever you want. All the time without any repercussions. And that's a curious thing. This judge maybe should have recused himself if he was going to be deciding on something that would be adversarial to his wife. In other words, if this judge indicts or allows a criminal complaint and finds there's probable cause to charge Don Lemon, that is in direct opposition to his wife's boss, who said Don Lemon cannot be charged. He is a competing attorney general, or a competing source of authority, rather, in the state. That's a pretty big conflict. So both of these arrest warrants came out. They get picked up. They come in. They're going to have their initial appearance, and we're going to see the complaint was later today unsealed because they had to go back and redact a bunch of things. And what did I do with the complaint? Sorry for all the clicking around. A lot of this stuff was kind of coming out at the last minute. And here, let me just do it this way. Grab this redacted complaint in a new link while we're here. Sorry for the delay. Here we go. View the document. Yes. And Pacer is delivering right now. Dun, 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 dun. Here we go. So, criminal complaint, United States District Court. This is the case of United States of America versus Nakima and the others. And there were some other people that looked like they were on this defense list, but that was redacted because presumably the judge did not find that there was cause for them, right? So the criminal complaint comes in for everybody. And in this complaint, the judge is going to, hear the evidence and then going to come back and strike part of the charges because he's going to find there's no probable cause for that, right? Which is how we got the arrest warrants that we just got with the strike. Now, undersigned, I am DHS ICE special agent. This guy's name's Timothy Gerber. Shout out to Timothy Gerber for fighting for justice. He presents this. He says, all right, Judge, listen. On January 18th in Ramsey County, okay, so a little bit of a correction there, in the state and district of Minnesota, the above named defendants conspired to injure, oppress, threaten, and intimidate the rights of other persons secured by federal law, namely at a place of religious worship that was secured by FACE Act in violation of these two sections, right? The judge struck one of these out. Now, just to kind of make sure there's a complaint, to make sure we're clear about this, I think what the judge is going to say is that you don't, the conspiracy against your rights could be a number of different rights, and the rights could be secured through a U.S. code, in this case, the FACE Act. That's the protection, or it's just the First Amendment in the Constitution. In other words, the FACE Act is kind of surplusage. You don't need it because you already have the First Amendment. The FACE Act is just codifying, religious places of worship, very clear, but the judge can also find that you have a right under the First Amendment. So the complaint is for both, but the judge just moves forward on one. Says, I work with Homeland and I'm an agent and all the things. This comes in January 20th, just days after the event. Here's the complaint and affidavit. I am a special agent with Homeland Security and ICE. Been employed since March 2025. Pretty new. Now, in my capacity as special agent, I'm responsible for conducting investigations, and I've investigated numerous criminal violations related to exploitation and assaults and many other things. I'm a graduate of the training academies, and I've investigated a number of things. Now, this affidavit is submitted for the purpose of establishing probable cause in the case against these three people, Nekima, Chantel, William Scott Kelly, aka the woke farmer. Now, there's other people, okay, so redacted. These people did not get charged. Why not? So who are they? And why did they not get charged here? Why did the judge find, nope, they're immune right now for whatever reason, and they cannot be included in this because the complaint was ordered to be redacted before it was unsealed for us to read. So who are these people? Another one. And Don Lemon is in this list. We can pretty much guarantee. Who are they? And other, I wanted to make sure we got all the question marks on there. And collectively defendants and other currently unknown persons for 2 counts. 1, conspiracy against rights under 241, namely the free exercise of religion at a place of worship, which is secured by the FACE Act. But I think you can also say they're also secured by the First Amendment. Now, this affidavit is based on my personal knowledge, as well as information I have learned from other law enforcement officers and the review of the reports. The affidavit is also intended to show merely that there's sufficient probable cause just to get this thing kicked off, and then we'll come back and fill in the gaps later. And no, question, does the FACE Act only apply to abortion? No, it also applies to places of worship, but I think what we're going to see is the judge is going to find that there wasn't enough violence or physicality to rise to the level of intimidation or interference. We'll see. He's going to give us an order in a little bit. We've got actually a lot of activity on this case. So on the morning of Sunday, the holy day, January 18, 2026, at approximately 10:30 a.m., this is the government writing, saying this is why they all should be charged, a group of approximately 30 to 40 agitators working together in a coordinated manner entered City's church located over here during a religious service and engaged in conduct that is detailed below, disrupted the religious service and intimidated, harassed, oppressed, and terrorized the parishioners. We saw the young kid, including young children, and caused the service to be cut short and forced the parishioners to flee the church out of a side door, which resulted in one female victim falling and suffering an injury. Statements made by agitators at the church indicated that they targeted the church based on their belief that one of the church's pastors is a federal immigration officer. We'll call him Victim 1. Prior to their assault on the church, the agitators met together in the parking lot of a nearby shopping center. We watched this video and made plans for their actions inside the church. Some of the protesters also physically obstructed some parishioners as they attempted to leave the church and the adjacent parking areas. And some of the agitators, including blankety blank diddy blank blank, live streamed the agitators at the pre-assault meeting and the conduct of the agitators inside the church after disrupting the church service. Probably Don Lemon is in there. Now, special agents with Homeland and the FBI commenced an investigation. The following facts were learned. On Sunday morning at approximately January 18th, 2026 at 10 a.m., Lemon probably began live streaming his stupid podcast in the parking lot of a shopping center located at 1440 University. I have reviewed pertinent portions of the live stream video. I use the YouTube closed captioning option to assist with transcriptions. Now, at the start of the live stream, Lemon said that he just got into Minneapolis, Minnesota, and he was there to speak with an organization that was gearing up for resistance and protest. Based on my training and experience, I am informed that persons identifying themselves as resistance protesters have recently sought to disrupt ICE operations in Minnesota. Due to the presence of an American flag, Lemon, I would guess, noted, apparently in jest, that he initially thought the protesters looked MAGA-coded. That's Lemon. We watched that video exactly. That he initially thought the protesters looked MAGA-coded, and then he's like, well, there's black people and brown people, so it's not a bunch of white racist bigot maggots, as they call us. But he explained to his audience that the organization was, in fact, a group of resistance protesters. He says, oh yeah, actually, that's my meetup crew. Lemon explained that the resistance protesters were planning an operation that someone intended to follow them on, probably Don. Now, Lemon identified their operation as Operation Pull-Up and identified the apparent organizer, Nikima, or Noxima Armstrong. When speaking with Armstrong, Lemon assured her, he said, we're not saying what it is, what's going on, but thank you. Okay, I know we're not going to say what it is, what's going on, but thank you. Like, we're happy you're doing this. So tell us why you're doing this, Nekima. Armstrong identified herself as a civil rights attorney, longtime activist in the community. She said she does activism and protest in various ways, identified this as, quote, Operation Pull-Up, which she characterized as a clandestine operation. Armstrong explained that she and other agitators show up somewhere that is a key location where the targets don't expect us to come, and we disrupt business as usual. That's what we're about to go do right now, she said. We've had a lot of success with the times we've done Operation Pull-Up. And then Nekima, she detailed prior arrest and stated, quote, "This is our next action to call for justice for Renee Good and ICE out of Minnesota." Lemon asked, "How long do you think before this operation before it takes place?" "We got to go now," said Nekima, "and get there." Lemon replied, "We'll see you there." Lemon advised his audience that we're going to head to the operation. Again, we're not going to give any of the information away because he's live. He doesn't want to alert ICE or alert the church or alert authorities who are all watching him that we're going to go attack a church on Sunday. So we're not going to give any of the information away. But he's traveling over there. Like, he knows where this is. He is, again, going to be the complement to her. The yin to her yang. She's going to go do the agitation, per se. He's going to cover it. She's going to do the performance. He's going to share it with the audience. Together, their forces are one. And without either one, they don't really have anything, right? She just goes in there. None of it's live stream. You don't get the clips. You don't get the virality. It's like whatever. So she's using him and he's using her because they're co-conspirators. They're both necessary to make this thing go off. How long do you think before this would take place? We've got to get in there. Now, Lemon introduced somebody who said that he was out there to support the community activists. This person identified himself as a current candidate for Minnesota State Senate. Incredible. He felt that it's important that if you're servicing people in office, you have to be with the people as well. Agent says, "Now, based on my review of the other video evidence of the agitators' activities inside the church, blank later entered the church as part of the group's action." Agent says, "Now, probably Lemon, redacted, walked away from someone to focus his attention on the other agitators and a chant that Chantel, this woman, seen here, started to," way too zoom. Okay, back up. She started screaming about in the middle of the church and a chant came underway. She was leading. Now, her initial chants were, "This is what community looks like." Not any community I want to live in. "And ICE out. ICE out," she starts screaming. Allen then directed the agitators to respond with, "Of Minnesota," when she said, "ICE out of Minnesota. ICE out of Minnesota." Allen then requested the favorite chants of the local agitators. She said, "What do you want to cheer today as we're insurrecting a Christian church and committing federal crimes? What would you like to do?" Someone else said, "Justice for Renee Good. Good." Good was recently involved, says this agent, in an illegal protest to disrupt immigration enforcement activities, led to an officer-involved shooting, resulting in her death after she tried to run over an agent. Allen preceded Chantella to proceed to lead the group in a chant as well, saying, "Say her name." And then they responded with, "Renee Good." Wow, they're so clever and like in sync. Wow, they should start a band. Allen described their reasoning for being out at the staging location. She was talking to the camera. She said, "We have a duty to fight for our freedom. We have a duty to win. We must love and support one another," as they're attacking congregants on a Sunday sermon. "We have nothing to lose but our chains." That's funny because she's now in double handcuffs. Allen then stated to the agitators, "You guys are sounding like Sunday morning." Allen continued to address the crowd in a motivational manner. She instructed the agitators to stay bumper to bumper, make sure everybody gets through the light, and we all have the address, right? So I guess that's on the way over there. So then Armstrong, Chantel, addressed the agitators and encouraged everyone to make sure they had the address. You got it? Little conspiracy brewing right now. All in text messages. "Hey, are you sending this?" "Got it." "Yeah." "Is it in a group chat? Is it in a Telegram?" Remember, they charged the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers with seditious conspiracy because of all of their group chats, essentially, and random documents that was arguably not even connected to them, probably by other federal agents in the group chats. But they went to prison, and they were going to go and stay in prison for years, decades. So maybe we should look into these group chats. I'm sure they're doing that, and I wonder if Don Lemon is inside of those. Probably. Now, Armstrong addressed the agitators and encouraged everyone to make sure they had the address. Also provided the following instruction. She says, "Listen here. Remember, if you have anything that is activist identifying, do not wear it in if you're just going to sit down and be part of the situation. Now, in response to a question from some other unidentified agitator, I guess this is all in the live stream, who asked if they should spread out once at the church, she said, yes, spread out, fan out, swarm, swarm, swarm. You should not sit together. Make sure you get the flanks of the Christians. Armstrong further instructed the agitators that if you have anything activism identifying, you do not go in with the first wave. You wait until you come in with us, people of color. Oh, so they sent the whites in first? They just sacrificed the white people? Go in there. They'll never suspect a thing because they're white Christians. So go in there. And there were a bunch of white people out there doing the black power hand thing, I think. The BLM hand, whatever that is. And they were walking out screaming. So they sent the whites in first. And then the people of color went in afterward. Wow, this is like a multi-pronged attack. Really sophisticated. So then Lemon proceeded to move the camera away from the agitators and the organizers because, as he explained, he did not want to divulge critical information about the operation. So he's helping them prepare for it by keeping his audience out. He's a part of it, but now he has to kind of remove himself because too much is going to, be leaked to his people. So now he's got to kind of keep them censored about the operation and the things being discussed. So then Lemon went to the crowd of agitators and organizers and proceeded to thank them for allowing him to be there. Thanks for letting me be a part of this attack. So based on my review, says this agent, of Lemon's live stream, and he's all over this, as you can see, I know that William Scott Kelly, aka the woke farmer, the demonically sounding individual screeching, was present in the crowd of agitators at the pre-operation briefing where Lemon was, along with Armstrong and Allen. So 3 of them were there. Now, based on my review of the live stream video, Armstrong and Allen appear to be the leaders of Operation Pull-Up. They were leading the meeting of the agitators described above. And I believe this because Nikema and Chantel, they provided instructions to the group. They led the chants and they conducted interviews as apparent leaders of the organization. It's like, what are you going to do today? We're just going to get together and chant and then attack churches and call it social justice. Like, well done. So then they all get together after they're done chanting and whatever. Then they travel to City's church. Now, Lemon and someone redacted, along with the rear passenger called Michael LNU, last name unknown, so somebody called Michael. They entered a vehicle to depart towards the location of the operation. Lemon asked this person, the driver, hey, you know where we're going, right? Driver said, yep, we got this, Don, don't worry. And another individual who identified himself as Mark approached probably Lemon and thanked Lemon and introduced himself. Lemon advised Mark, he said, you're on right now, just so you know. So don't give anything away to the camera, to the audience. You know, don't say what we're doing. Lemon knows. He's warning him. A short time later, someone else said, all right, we're behind operation. We got to catch up. That's how they're talking to. Lemon replied, let's go catch up, and later advised someone and Michael, don't give anything away. Don't tell them about what this attack is involving. For the J6ers, that's, premeditation. That's intention. That's seditious. That's a conspiracy. They're all working together. Many men went to prison for a long time for that. On the drive to the operation location, Lemon advised his audience that they're doing a clandestine secret operation. You guys are going to be so excited. Wait till you see what we do here. Lemon asked someone else. He said, they found out some inside information, right? Someone responded, yeah. Lemon identified who blank is, and that is his producer, and that they met at Essence Fest a couple years ago. Don met his producer at Essence Fest. So then someone identified himself as an activist and a social entrepreneur. Now, while still on the drive, Lemon stated, this is just the beginning of this clandestine operation that they're doing here because of some inside information that they got, Lemon says. So this is going to be very interesting. Now, I don't think we can go ahead. I don't think we can go inside, right? No. Michael replied, we can stand outside. Wow, so they were even contemplating, can we breach the perimeter? They were talking about it on the live stream. Lemon later said, probably, we can't say too much. We don't want to give it up. The occupants of the vehicle discussed going into a church service that is underway with parishioners. So now the conspiracy's out in the open. Lemon later stated, well, I'm just trying to figure out what's the best thing because we just found out about this morning. I'm just trying to figure out if it's for me to go inside so I can tell what happened, right? Like he's conflicted because he knows this is a no-no. That's what I'm going to do. Michael responded. Someone else's producer, I guess, from Essence Fest says, I know I'm not supposed to really like go in, right? Someone else responded, but you can go in. Michael added, because they're going to buy that. Redacted asked, will they let you in with a camera? Someone replied, put it in your backpack. Someone else answered, no, you can't do that. We can't do that. We can't do that. Someone else asked, oh, we can't? Someone replied, no, and later stated, let me produce this live as we're doing this. Maybe that's Lemon, right? If that's a Lemon. Lemon then instructed somebody, and if there's a place to turn, I want you to go where and park right where we can see the entrance. Someone replied, well, I don't think that's the main entrance going on. Lemon replied, yeah, it's right there. Other guy replied, oh, where people are walking down those stairs, trying to figure out where to go. So they're actually conflicted about this. Now, at the church, as Lemon approached City's church, someone advised Michael to stay on the sidewalk. You can probably come where the van is. Based on the video, it appears that Lemon was referring to a red vehicle parked in front of City's church. During Lemon's live stream, the camera focused on the outside of the City's church, and Lemon entered only with audio equipment, or somebody. I don't know if that was Lemon because he had video on him for sure. The audio captures what appears to be the church pastor in the midst of addressing his congregation during a religious service. Right in the middle of it. Sacred time, and they just come in for their political protest. Approximately 1 minute and 40 seconds later, 7 seconds later, after someone entered City's church, an unknown female voice interrupted the pastor's sermon and shouted, excuse me, pastor. I think Lemon is then heard saying, hey, Meta, record. Based on my training and experience, Meta refers to smart glasses that integrate augmented reality features, allowing users to interact with digital content seamlessly. Now, while the cameraman remained outside, the audio recording captures the voices of agitators yelling in the church. So the cameras get activated. At one point, an unknown female refers to the director of ICE. Agitators now in the crowd can be heard yelling, justice for Renee Good, justice for Renee Good. Approximately 35 seconds later, Redacted is observed on video entering City's church. Immediately after this person enters the City's church, the video shows multiple parishioners exiting City's church through multiple doors. They go, oh crap, like something weird is going on, we're out. And of course, churches have been attacked many times. Schools have been attacked. It's like, okay, you're kind of on alert for those things. 3 unknown parishioners are observed falling to the ground, injured, while exiting City's church through the north side door. Then 20 seconds later, Michael just goes right on in. He's like, oh, cool, the seniors are falling all over themselves. Now's the perfect time. Then this person enters City's church with his camera recording Lemon's probably live broadcast. Based on my review of the video, it appears that the parishioners are confused and they're shocked by the agitators' conduct. Again, based on the video, agitators can be heard yelling ICE out and blowing whistles. Based on my training and experience, this agent says, anti-ICE agitators use whistles to disrupt these operations and to notify others of their presence. And during this broadcast, Lemons, Armstrong and Allen are observed yelling. Chantel and Nakima yelling ICE out. And Kelly, the guy, can be heard yelling, this ain't God's house. This is the house of the devil. Based on my review of Kelly's numerous social media posts, I know his voice on video saying those words. And Lemon can be observed walking with a winter-style jacket and hood over his head in what appears to be an attempt to conceal his identity. Yeah, right. Several other agitators or parishioners are also wearing winter-style jackets with their hoods down as well. And during his live stream, Lemon explained that Operation Pull-Up learned that one of the pastors for City's church is a member of ICE. And during his broadcast, Lemon tells his viewers that he's there chronicling and reporting. He's like, no. Now I'm a journalist. We're not part of the activists, but we're here just reporting on them, right? I'm definitely not a part of this because I know this is wrong. Someone is observed engaged in agitator chants, yelling and raising his hands. Now, I'd like to know who that is. Is that someone on Don's team? Lemon stated, I'm looking at a young man who's in the corner. He's frightened. He's scared. He's crying. And Don is like just getting excited. You can hear it in his voice in the video. He's like, wow, this is perfect. That young kid is going to be traumatized. He's almost like feasting off of it. People are leaving the church like a demon would. People are leaving church. An unknown male then parishioner was observed yelling to the agitators, telling them to get out. Lemon acknowledged that the unknown male parishioner is yelling this. Lemon stated, I don't think they know what to do. I'm sure they probably called the local authorities right now. People are just really angry and upset, and members of the church are trying to get them to calm down. Lemon followed with, he said, but this is the beginning of what's going to happen here. When you violate people's due process, when you pull people off the street and start dragging them and hurting them and not abiding by the Constitution, when you start doing all of that, people get upset and angry, said Lemon. Lemon goes on to suggest, so in other words, you deserve this. So our mission was accomplished because we are unhappy with the enforcement of federal law. So then Lemon goes on to suggest that according to the Constitution, there are no limitations to protesters on where they can go and where they can exercise their constitutional rights, which is amazing. It's wild to see Don Lemon become like a J6er all of a sudden. He's like, oh no, they can walk right in there. That at least was a government facility, not a private church. That's the whole point of it, though, is to disrupt. That's what they're doing, and that's what I believe. And then came down and doubled down on it in multiple podcasts with Keith Ellison. So while at the church, Lemon interviewed Armstrong, the other woman charged, who stated, I told Splunk that victim one is a pastor here, and he also serves as director of a field office of ICE in St. Paul. Lemon asked, are you sure that she said, yes, City's church. That's why we're here, because ICE is here. We're demanding justice for Renee Good and letting them know that this will not stand. They cannot pretend to be a house of God while harboring someone who is directing ICE agents to wreak havoc upon our community and who killed Renee Good and who almost killed a 6-month-old baby. Enough is enough. I'm a reverend on top of being a lawyer and an activist. Wow, you're so impressive and incredible. Now, Lemon asked Armstrong, who is the person that we should talk to? Is our pastor or something? Armstrong replied, he might have ran away. Lemon replied, all right, well, we'll see if we can find him. Let's go track him down. And Lemon informed his audience, I'm going to talk to the pastor. Let's see if I can talk to him, right? Because the mission had not been accomplished yet. They needed to go obstruct this ICE agent, really call that guy out and shame him, name and shame him. So now Lemon wants to go complete it. Taking it even further, taking the baton from Armstrong, who says, we can't find the guy. Lemon says, oh, perfect. Here, let me pick this up and run with it. I'll go find him. So then other agitators also then corner this pastor. We watched the video of this earlier this week. It's pretty traumatizing, actually, for everybody to think this is appropriate and these people might get away with it. Let's see. So blank Lemon and other agitators then cornered the pastor and locked this guy down. Lemon then approached the pastor and began asking him questions. In response to a question from Don, the pastor, victim number 7 here, said, we were interrupted by this group of protesters. We asked them to leave and they obviously have not left. This is unacceptable. So Don saying that, he went in there and he was never told to leave or this is a public service or whatever. No. They've already been asked to leave. Then Don comes in after the fact. Then Don has to be asked to leave. This is unacceptable, he said. This is shameful. It's shameful to interrupt a public gathering of Christians in worship. Lemon advised, he said, well, we live there's a constitution and the First Amendment to freedom of speech and freedom to assemble and protest. Forgetting the entire freedom of religion that is also in that amendment. But that is not convenient for him. The pastor replied, listen, bro, we're here to worship Jesus because that's the hope of these cities. That's the hope of the world is Jesus Christ. Lemon interrupted and then told the pastor, he said, I want to be very respectful. Please don't push me, though. As Don Lemon was breaching his personal space, getting in his face, guys like, can you just get away from me? Get out of my face. In the video, Lemon is standing very close to the pastor in the live stream. The pastor also appears to be worried and distraught about his parishioners, whom he keeps looking at. He's like, worried about his church. Lemon continues to distract the pastor with questions. The pastor then stated, I have to take care of my church and my family. So I ask that you actually also leave this building. Lemon asked, you don't want us to worship? The pastor replied, unless you're here to worship. Lemon said, I'm always worshiping. I'm a Christian, but I just wrecked a Christian service because that's what Jesus would want me to do. So approximately 13 minutes later, didn't leave, didn't follow any requests, became a trespasser at that time who will not be charged locally by the Minnesota authorities. Finally, Lemon leaves. So other video footage shows that at this point during the incident, the pastor is also cornered by this person, apparently not charged, and this person, apparently not charged, and this person, not charged, and other unidentified agitators. And I hope every single one of them is identified. They could do it on J6, identify some guy by a pimple with 3 pixels. Up, got him. Then they can find these guys. Now, I observed other live stream footage taken by another agitator who was also inside the church when the agitators began their protest. Now, in that video, I observed the pastor standing at the podium with both hands on each side of the lectern in what appears to be an observing stance. During the recording, I am able to hear, "Hands up, don't shoot." Kelly is shown standing in front of the lectern with his phone camera pointed at the pastor. That's the demon voice maniac. The pastor then is shown pointing towards the exit of the church, saying in what appears to be a gesture to get out, to dismiss him. In the video, I also observed a female parishioner in the corner of the church holding 2 toddlers in a protective way, with what appears to be a look of anxiety and fear on her face. Like, are we under attack right now? You heard that guy. Kelly is also shown in the video engaging with the parishioner in an aggressive confrontational manner within the parishioner's personal space. Kelly was yelling at the parishioner, asking multiple questions along the lines of, "Why aren't you involved in the protests?" Then Alan Chantel is also observed leading other chants. Now, broadcast video that also came from City's Church shows someone chanting with the agitators and punching his fist in the air. Who is that? That looks like a LEMON right there. He is standing next to Alan at that point in the video, and based on the footage, it appears that the conduct of this person, Alan, and other agitators is intimidating and physically obstructing some of the parishioners in their freedom of movement. I also observed this person give Armstrong Nakima what appears to be a hug, then engaging in a brief conversation with her while they were both inside the church. That might be Lemon, because I think there's also a photo of Lemon like kissing her on the cheek. City's Church broadcast video also, if that's real, I'm not sure. City's Church broadcast video also showed someone present at the protest. Another review of open source social media showed someone live streaming the protest in addition to interviewing Armstrong and the pastor. This person, this person, and this person and other agitators were later seen intimidating and obstructing another pastor's freedom of movement, as noted above. City's Church in their broadcast also showed Redacted present at the protest, recording with his phone, chanting with the agitators and obstructing freedom of movement. Now, I've reviewed the incident report from St. Paul Police Department, who apparently haven't done crap about this. I learned the following information. They could charge them with trespass, disorderly conduct. I mean, I don't practice law in Minnesota, but in Arizona, we've got like a gazillion things. Disorderly conduct, you could, maybe criminal damage. You could charge like public nuisance, find some city codes, whatever. But they don't care. According to Officer Jonathan Schrader, on January 18th, he got this info from the local St. Paul Police Department. They received multiple calls at 10:40 a.m. from the parishioners. Freaked out. They called the church. 20 to 40 individuals reportedly breaking into the church, chanting and protesting. Shortly after interviewing on scene and arriving on scene, then the police observed protesters leaving the building and moving to the driveway on the west side of the church. The protesters continued to chant for about 30 minutes and then they left. Officers Schrader learned this protest was happening because one of their pastors is allegedly a director for ICE. Members of the church staff requested them to document what happened and said they wanted to press charges. They said, "Yes, can you help us, please? We want to identify anyone in the protest. We'll help." So according to the local cops, Sergeant Ilya Tereshko, at 10:40 a.m., officers were dispatched to the city's church on a call of disorderly conduct. Boom, right? Everybody. Boom, you're all charged. Where protesters were disrupting church services. Church clergy advised Sergeant Tereshko that their parishioners were shaken up during the incident. Many left early. There was also concern that there would be more disruption in the future, as well as vandalism to the building, because of the potential national attention that this incident could get due to the presence of Lemon and others. Now, according to another sergeant, this guy called Matthew St. Salver, he was made aware of a possible protest in the parking lot center at a Cubs Food, beginning at 10 a.m. Then at 10:15, he directed a police unit to go to the area to see what the group was doing. A police unit responded, observed the group getting into their vehicle, and that's where the caravan started. And he was monitoring a Facebook stream as well. He monitored a Black Lives Matter Minnesota stream remotely at this address. Identified the following individuals on stream, redacted. And then, of course, Allen. We've got the school board member, Armstrong, who is the member of the St. Paul School Board, and someone else. Now, according to local cops, their computer-aided dispatch, their CAD, victim 2 broke her arm exiting through the city's church when proceeding towards Saratoga Street. When victim 2 came out of the door and was running, she slipped and broke her arm. I believe this is documented in someone's broadcast as described above. Per the report, victim 2 advised the police that they were terrorized. Our children were weeping. College students and young women were sobbing. It was impactful, and it will take time to work through. All of that in the local cops report. Where are the senators of the Democratic Party coming in here and defending an American citizen, probably a senior person who was just, getting out quickly, fell, broken arm? It's sick. Cops are like, well, we don't like ICE though, because the Somalians are going to kill us if we don't help them. So per the report, victim 2 advised the police that we were terrorized. All of it. It should be noted, documented. And Kay Bean is saying it is documented. She saw the video. So thank you, Kay Bean. Now, during the course of the investigation, agents discovered a flyer posted on Instagram by Racial Justice MN and Nekima L. Advertising Operation Pull-Up. They're posting it all over the place. All right, we're going to meet in Cubs food, and we're going to get together and then commit a crime. Nekima is Armstrong's personal Instagram account. Instagram is a social media platform. We know what it is. Now, the following photo is a screenshot of this post. Here you go. Racial Justice MN. Let's go attack some white Christians, I guess, because I guess that's racial justice for them. So Sunday, January 18th, they're all there. Don Lemon is joining in on the fun. Out at this location, dress warm and be ready to mobilize. They did. On January 19th, the FBI identified and interviewed victims 4 and 5, both of whom have been members of City's church for at least 4 years and present during the event and the protest, or riot, or attack. I have learned the following from a report of the interview. Victim 5 noticed that City's church was unusually full and noticed a group of unfamiliar individuals seated together towards the rear of the church. They sent the white insurrectionists in first so that nobody would notice. Victim 4 noted after the protest began, approximately 50 members of the congregation were stuck towards the front of the church. They couldn't get out the back doors. Victim 4 also informed the agents the aisles are already narrow to begin with, and the agitators who occupied the center of the sanctuary made it nearly impossible for the parishioners to even get out and leave. Victim 5 later expressed fear that the agitators may have guns underneath their jackets, and especially that one guy. That guy's like, he's ready to stab somebody. Additionally, when the agitators began shouting, all the parishioners could hear was shoot. And you hear, hands up, don't shoot. And I mean, that sounds like somebody saying, hands up. And then somebody else is saying, don't shoot me. So like there's a gun on somebody, hands up, like a robber comes in, put your hands up. The guy who puts his hands up says, don't shoot. Right. And so is somebody blasting fools in the church? So victim 4 informed agents that members of the parish attempted to retrieve their children from a daycare center also located downstairs, but the agitators were blocking the stairs. So the parents couldn't get their kids as they're all screaming about shooting people. So victim 4 then recalled one agitator was threatening, aggressive, intimidating towards the parishioners. And additionally, this agitator was screaming and getting into people's faces, including women and young children, continued to scream in the faces of young children while they were crying like a demon. On January 19th, Homeland Security investigations and other FBI agents interviewed victim 6 about the incident that took place. And I've learned following from a report of the interview. Victim 6 was there, joined by his wife, victim 2, and their children. Victim 6 recalled an African-American woman yelling, "Excuse me, Pastor! Excuse me, Pastor! Do you know you're harboring ICE agent?" Victim 6 recalls protesters everywhere in the aisles then bursting up, chanting, agent out, ICE agent out. Then victim 6 thought to himself that this is what it would feel like to be in a mass shooting, 100%. Victim 6 described the events as surreal, could not even believe what was happening. He recalled people shouting and running, children crying, as well as people singing and praying. Victim 6 recalled Kelly screaming, "Nazi, you're a Nazi," in people's faces, in addition to confronting the children, saying, "Do you know your parents are Nazis?" screaming to these young kids. They are going to burn in hell. This guy, man. Victim 6 was scared the agitators were not going to let people leave, that they were going to harm their family for harboring Victim 1. Victim 6 later stated, protesters followed and surrounded them in their car and would not let them leave. Victim 6 informed agents that their face is on city's church website, and they're afraid people are going to come to their house at night. In fact, one father recalled his child stating to him, "Daddy, I thought you were going to die." Victim 6 ended the interview and acknowledged, yeah, his children are traumatized. Absolutely, I could totally understand that. So based on the foregoing facts, I submit there is probable cause to believe that all of these people have committed violations of these two laws. Of course, conspiracy against rights and FACE Act violations. So all of that came in. Seems pretty clear to me that all of them should have been indicted. And I don't know, I'm sure Lemon's name is in this mix, but he was not indicted, or rather charged. Let me say charged. These are direct complaints. These are not indictments. They're two terms of art, but was not charged. This judge found no probable cause. And in the arrest warrants, even for the two people who were charged, as we saw at the start of this, he also struck out this other part of the statute. So the FACE Act violation, he says, does not exist. So they ultimately got arrested. They got brought in. They did their initial appearance, which is just a very preliminary proceeding. You can see this one took 16 minutes, and it was basically the same for all of them. And we're still not done. We've got a lot of documents to get through because they fought release, essentially. The DOJ said, you can't let these people go. They're maniacs. And the judge said they're out. And so there was a fight over this that we'll get to. But here's what happened at the initial appearance. So as we saw, they kind of got rid of the FACE Act, and they say now the offense is they conspired to injure, oppress, threaten, or intimidate the rights of other people secured by federal law, namely the free exercise of religion as a place of religious worship, right? Which I would think would be under just the First Amendment, the conspiracy against rights moving forward. Now, the government moved for a detention hearing. This is a complaint, not an indictment, no grand jury. And so a grand jury could be another option for, say, Don Lemon. If they can't get him by a direct complaint because the judge reads the affidavit that we just read and said, well, it doesn't really match, then there are other options. Now, they said here, we've got lawyers who were retained, Jordan Kushner, we've got Robert Keenan as the U.S. attorney, in and out pretty quickly. And this is the case against Nakima Levy Armstrong. Of course, this is before the magistrate judge, which is like a judicial assistant, not even a real judge, named Douglas L. Miko, who, of course, is married. His wife works for Keith Ellison, the same Keith Ellison who went on the podcast with Don Lemon and said, Don Lemon, you're innocent, essentially. So now we've got the initial appearance. Pretty quick document. You can see government wants a detention hearing. They say, nope, we want to hold these people, saying they're too dangerous and they're flight risks and they cannot be let out. Now, this motion is denied. Judge says, nope, no detention hearing. He says, I find a detention hearing is not authorized. The court nonetheless entertained all the arguments, and the government said, we want a hearing. He said, well, what would you say? They said everything. And he said, even if we had a detention hearing, I would still release them. So we're not going to have a detention hearing. We just basically did it right now. Then the judge says, I'm going to release them. Personal recognizance bond, so they don't have to post a bond. They just promise to appear. They come back. The government then says, what? In the middle of the hearing? What? You can't release them. They move to stay the order. They say you can't let them go with basically, some conditions like we'll get to them. We have the order pulled up. But no bond. Let them go. Government freaks out. Hold on. We need to stay on this. He says, okay, fine. I'll issue a stay. She'll hang in custody for a little bit. Government, you have until 2:30 today, which was yesterday, to file an appeal of the order. I've got all those documents. So if the government files an appeal by the deadline, then the stay will go, but otherwise it'll expire and then she'll be released. So submit your filing and let's look at that. The government says, okay, no problem. We are now asking for an emergency stay. You've got her in custody. We want you to revoke the release order. The U.S. government, through its attorney now, called Robert Keenan, a name we're going to hear a lot moving forward. Shout out to Robert Keenan. Works for the DOJ and others. We are hereby asking this court to revoke your order. You just gave her release. We want you to reopen the detention hearing that you just denied. And we want you to amend her conditions. We at least want a $10,000 appearance bond, not on her own recognizance. And the motion is filed today in support of a single-page application form that we filed earlier. It's not intended as a separate motion, but we needed to file something quickly. So we submit this for further assistance because you ordered it to be done quickly. Now, here's the background. January 22nd, yesterday, they were charged by criminal complaint in this case for 18 U.S. Code violation of Section 241, conspiracy against rights, as a charge, one count, secured by the FACE Act. Now, on January 22nd, 2026, the defendants were arrested. On January 22nd, the defendants made their initial appearance before this judge. The government said, hold on to them, don't release them. The magistrate judge denied the government's detention motion. The government subsequently asked for a $10,000 appearance bond to each defendant. Judge then denied that. Nope, I'm letting them out. The government said, what? Don't release them. Let us file this. We're filing now. Now, U.S. Code says that there are certain times when you must hold a detention hearing. And there are certain factors that need to be met in order to get one. So in other words, there are cases where it is presumed that no conditions of release will assure a defendant's appearance, meaning they'll come back to court or make sure that we're safe as a community. Now, in this case, Nekima, this provision of the law establishes a rebuttable presumption that no condition will assure his appearance in this case. And is this the Nekima case? It's kind of all of them. Yeah, so it's Nekima and Chantel. So that his might, I don't just be a typo because I don't see the arms. Chantel and Nekima. I don't see William Kelly on there. But they go through it. They continue. Now, legal standards are, we need to make sure defendants come back to court. They don't need to be flight risks. We don't want to release people who are going to flee. We don't want to release people who are going to be a danger to the community. Go through all the rules of how this works. You can look at a bunch of things: alcohol abuse, criminal history, past conduct, family ties, mental condition, whatever. This person is a teacher and lives around the corner and their whole family lives here, so they're not going to leave. They don't even have any money to leave and blah, blah, blah. So pretrial detention may be ordered in a couple ways: clear and convincing showing that this person's going to be a danger, or showing by preponderance of the evidence that they're going to be a flight risk. So one of two things: they're dangerous or they're a flight risk. And here, you order this person released, and they shouldn't be released. We have a lot of interest in making sure they are detained, and your detention decision is subject to review. And so here's why we think she should be detained. The factors weigh heavily in support of securing her. Here's why. On the evening of January 21, federal agents conducted physical surveillance and real-time location monitoring of Nekima. We got search warrants and we were watching her. At approximately 7:10 p.m., Armstrong's vehicle was started remotely. At 7:13, Armstrong left the Aloft Hotel in downtown Minneapolis, entered the vehicle, departed the hotel at 7:15. We watched her drive up to this address. Then, upon arrival, she parked in a parking lot of the residence with the engine running and remained in the vehicle for 5 minutes. During this period, she appeared to be alone. Then at 7:27, she left the vehicle. After leaving the residence, she then drove to another parkway, during which agents observed her commit multiple traffic violations. Oh, gosh. Just speeding and zigzagging and reckless driving, and including making rolling stops through posted stop signs. Yeah, well, everyone does that. At approximately 7:45, Armstrong returned to the Aloft Hotel and was observed driving the wrong way down the hotel alley. Wow! Before re-entering the hotel alone. It's like Grand Theft Auto Nekima over there. So later that evening, beginning at approximately 11:20, agents confirmed through hotel records that Armstrong had booked 3 separate hotel rooms. What? At the Aloft Hotel, despite being observed earlier entering and exiting the hotel alone. What are you doing, Noxima? Federal 3 unidentified adult females moving between rooms 327 and 329 with suitcases and travel bags, indicating preparation for departure. Yeah. Agents observed repeated movements of luggage between the rooms consistent with imminent travel. At approximately 8 a.m., Armstrong was arrested at the hotel. She was packing her bags, baby. Not fast enough there, Nekima. Now, her conduct demonstrates a substantial risk of flight and evasion. It warrants detention or at least significantly heightened release conditions. First, Armstrong engaged in counter-surveillance behavior and suspicious travel shortly after learning of law enforcement interest in the underlying investigation. Her brief stop at a residential address without exiting the vehicle, followed by immediate departure, suggests reconnaissance or coordination rather than innocent travel. And second, her multiple traffic violations, including driving the wrong way down an alley, demonstrate reckless behavior and disregard for legal constraints while under surveillance. And third, and most significantly, her decision to book 3 hotel rooms coupled with late-night movement of suitcases and travel bags among multiple individuals strongly indicates preparations to flee or relocate. Courts routinely recognize this conduct as evidence of flight risk, particularly when undertaken after the defendant became aware of the investigation. And finally, Nekima, her leadership role in this conspiracy heightens the risk that she could coordinate with her co-conspirators, obstruct justice, evade court supervision if released without adequate safeguards. And so for these reasons, your release order, real judge, saying the magistrate, like judicial assistant, his order is now going up to the real judge. It doesn't adequately mitigate these risks. So additional conditions are warranted. And by the way, Allen, this other defendant, we were also monitoring him. Or her. Which one was that? Chantel Allen? Yeah, because the other guy's William Kelly. Chantel Allen. Okay, so they were also monitoring her. And here's what they got searching for her. On Tuesday, January 20th, federal agents conducted surveillance to Chantel. At 7:55 p.m., law enforcement observed 2 adult black females believed to be Allen and her significant other at a residence. In a white SUV, they entered the residence carrying personal items. Agents believed the vehicle to be Allen's based on the license plate. Now, during this period, agents also observed 2 individuals exiting the residence carrying duffel bags, further suggesting movements and belongings consistent with temporary lodging. Then at 8:20, a special agent called Cholewa reported that agents lost contact with the original vehicle and had unintentionally followed a similar looking vehicle. Doop. So the sequence of events nonetheless demonstrates that she lost them, that Allen was associated with late evening movement of luggage and vehicles and more. Now, Allen's conduct also raises legitimate concerns of a flight risk. She has a history of non-appearance in court. Oh, that's interesting. So prior warrants or failures to appear? Interesting. So that's a big factor. If you failed to appear before, they're like, well, why won't you do it again? The observed movement of duffel bags during late night hours combined with vehicle confusion, loss of surveillance, it all supports the inference she's changing locations and trying to throw us off during a critical phase of the investigation. And she did. She lost them. Now, in conclusion, given her role in this and the seriousness of the offense, we need to keep her in custody. So the government respectfully requests the real judge devoke the lower level judge's pretrial release, reopen the detention hearing, detain the defendant because no conditions will ensure that we're going to be safe from these maniacs. Or in the alternative, at least make him post a $10,000 bond, all right? Signed by Orlando Sanza. So he sends that into the judge, to like the real judge, and says, you got to undo what this lower level judge did. So then we get Nekima and Chantel. They respond. Church attackers turn around and they say, no, detention is not warranted. Okay, all of this is nonviolent, expressive activity. This is protest. This is not violence at all. They say we're now charged with conspiracy against rights in violation of Section 241. Why? because we went in and entered a church during a religious service, and they say she's a reverend too. So if a reverend goes in and obstructs another reverend, it's okay. It's fair. They're both reverends. So chill out. Contrary to the charges, there was no intent to deprive anyone of their right to worship, but you did. But there was a desire to initiate a debate. Well, you could have done that outside the church. The action was not only an exercise of free speech, but it was also, this is rich, an expression of her own religious beliefs. Well, my religion says I can go in and interrupt your religion. So First Amendment trumps your First Amendment. It's like when you're doing rock, paper, scissors, you both throw rocks out. It's like, gotta do it again. So there is no allegation that there was any violence or anything. And they say the government is exaggerating this. They're making up stories like we're going to flee. We've never fled. We were just packing our bags. And they're also attacking us in the press. And she's citing, I think, the memes that the Trump people posted yesterday. So they say this isn't a crime of violence. The Bail Reform Act says it's got to be a crime of violence. There was no violence here. We were just out there screaming at people. We didn't hit or hurt anybody, even though the woman fell and broke her arm. Children were traumatized. And multiple people, I'm sure, will have PTSD. And oppress and intimidate, right? Those are big terms. But that encompasses a wide range of nonviolent conduct. And this criminalizes other things. And so you can't charge us. There's no injury. There's no threatening. And there's no crime of violence. And by the way, she's not leaving anywhere. She's not a flight risk. So she's not dangerous and she's not a flight risk. They're productive members of their community. There were hundreds of supporters there. No one has substantive criminal convictions. They're not a flight risk. And so in conclusion, you should deny this request to revoke their release order. That's from the defense. And they submitted these attachments here talking about this photo. And this is not a real photo, but the White House did post it, probably because it's hilarious. It's an AI, she's crying, but she, in a real photo, doesn't look like that. So they post that, they send that into the judge. The judge is meant to read these things just to say, look how mean Trump is. And it's probably working. So this came down from the real judge. And this, of course, is a Biden judge. She is called Laura M. Provenzino, and she was appointed very recently by Joe Biden. This is what she looks like over here. Assumed office September 16, 2024. Born 1975. Oh, and she went to Oxford. Isn't that just something? So she came out with the order, and here's what she found. All right, this matter comes before the court. And we're wondering whether we need a detention hearing or whether we should detain these alleged criminals. The court denies the DOJ's motion. Now, these individuals were charged by criminal complaint of Section 241, and the statute makes it illegal for two or more people to conspire to injure, oppress, threaten, or intimidate any person in the free exercise or enjoyment of any constitutional right, Section 241. The affidavit that we read at the start of the show specifically identifies the right as the free exercise of religion at a place of religious worship, under the First Amendment, as you would expect. Now, the affidavit details that on January 18, 30 to 40 agitators working together in a coordinated manner went into the church, disrupted a religious service, and intimidated, harassed, and oppressed. Terrorized the parishioners, including young children, one female victim falling and suffering an injury. Okay, so there's some violence and harm occurring. On January 22nd, the defendants made their initial appearance before the judge, Judge Miko, whose wife is working for Ellison. The U.S. moved for a detention hearing. He said, nope, not authorized. He set release conditions and said they're free to go. Now, the judge imposed individualized conditions to make sure they come back. He said, you got to check in with probation. You got to check in with pretrial services. You can't travel outside of Minnesota without permission. No contact with anybody in this case, no firearms, no devices, and a stay away condition, which says you cannot go near the church. No closer than the public sidewalk of the church. Now, the United States immediately moved for a stay. Said, this judge made a mistake. Their motion, we just read, says you got to reverse this, and I'm now reviewing it. She writes, now, if a person is ordered released by a judge, you may file a motion with me, the real judge, the lower assistant. If you don't like it, come up to me. Now, they say that this charge establishes, just by virtue of the nature of the charge, the right to a detention hearing. And then a judge can make a determination about reasonable conditions of release. But the case here only would apply if it's a crime of violence. And here, the charge conspiracy is not a crime of violence. It does not involve a minor victim, as that term is defined under this section of the law. Even though there were minor victims in there, we saw them on camera. And the court finds more persuasive the argument that the element of injuring, oppressing, or threatening them doesn't require physical force, right? She says, well, maybe it's just about that. But the United States is not entitled to a hearing because crime of violence means physical offense. It's got to be physical force. It can't be just kind of scary, very scary. So consequently, the United States' first basis is unavailing. The court then goes to the second argument. Their second argument is a flight risk argument. So the judge just went over that pretty quickly. It's got to be a physical force, a physical form of violence in order for it to actually be violent. The fact that some woman broke her arm, the fact that kids are traumatized as reported by multiple victims of the crime, it's not violent though. Somebody screaming in your face, you're a demon, you're a Nazi in the middle of a church proceeding, psychological and emotional harm doesn't count here. So it's not really violent at all. So then the next argument is flight risk. Says, well, they're going to leave. The bulk of the evidence at oral argument focused on these two defendants, Levy and Allen, Chantel and Nekima, because she was coming and going to a hotel. She appeared to commit multiple traffic violations, including making rolling stops and many other things. Agents observed them with other adult women. They got 3 rooms. They were packing travel bags. And the agent said, this is reckless. This is preparatory. They're going to flee. They say that the release order doesn't negate any of that. But all of it seems very similar. Yeah, they were moving things and a history of non-appearance, this judge says. But they are professionals. Levy is a lawyer, an activist, and Allen is a member of the board. And so they say, we're not going anywhere. Like, we're completely connected to the community. They explained that they were staying in hotels because their home addresses were everywhere. We knew that was coming. And they were getting death threats. That's why they couldn't go to their homes. Yeah, weird. You don't want people coming into your private spaces. It's weird. Isn't that interesting? Yeah. They argue that the United States is mischaracterizing this, that we're just scared. So in conducting a de novo review, the judge says, I think they're not a flight risk. They just left their homes. They're not going to flee to a foreign country. They've got strong ties to Minnesota. If they wanted to flee, they could have already left. And the judge issued orders saying, don't leave Minnesota. And there's been no evidence that they're going to breach that. So this now, if you're concerned, the judge says, I'll do this, government, just to make you happy, okay? I'm going to make them surrender their passports. And during the pendency of this case, they can't get new passports. Okay, so now you can be happy. And so for these reasons, we agree with Judge Miko, whose wife works for Keith Ellison, that release is warranted because all of this is going to assure that they're not going to endanger the community. And I'm not going to give a $10,000 bond either. Personal recognizance is good. And they're going to come back and don't even worry about it. So it's ordered. They are ordered released. Surrender your passports and all the other things. But the Biden judge lets them go. All right. So now they're out and free. We see back on the docket. Let's see what other documents I've got queued up here. Yeah, this was here, right? Submit. This is the order setting conditions of release. So they say, don't violate any additional laws. Give a DNA sample if you're required to. Must advise the court if you're changing your number or phone number. Must sign an appearance bond, right? I promise to appear if ordered. And they check off a couple other boxes here. Yep, report to pretrial services, report to probation, travel restricted and limited to Minnesota. It says don't talk to any co-defendants, but she can talk to co-defendants. So I guess she can go talk to her other co-conspirators right now. That's great. The government shall provide a no contact list of the defendant. Okay, so it's okay. So maybe it's not in the charging document, but they'll talk about no contact of victims and people at the church. Do not possess a firearm. They also looks like scratch this out, right? This judge is like just kind of like modifying this stuff on the fly. this was checked, do not use narcotic drugs. But then it looks like he scribbled that out, right? So I guess she can use narcotic drugs. All right. And then scratch this out. Submit to testing for a prohibited substance. Like that was checked. And then it looks like the judge, DLM, scratched that out. So no random testing either. So she can just get lit like Hunter Biden. Just give him a call. So participate in one of the following location programs. So she's not on home detention, curfew, no standalone monitoring. None of that is checked. Report within 72 hours to pretrial services. If you have any contact with law enforcement, traffic offenses for driving like a nutcase, let us know. And defendant shall stay away from the church identified in the complaint. Stay away means no closer than a public sidewalk nearest to the location of the church. And so that is most of the documentation that came out today. Let me share with you the rest of the actual docket itself. And we went through basically all of it. Recognizance bond, motion to stay the release order, the defense motion opposing, order denying that. We just read that. Brady obligation, turn over any of the Brady material. We got that. Appeals, bench warrants, all the things. All right, so now we also saw that Chantel hired a lawyer. And Chantel, as we know, is a BLMer. And what's interesting is we just heard Michelle Obama say that if you're black, you should buy from black people and not white people. Paraphrasing. And so I was wondering if that same concept would apply for legal defense. Like, would Chantel hire a black defense attorney? Seems reasonable. Like, just follow Michelle Obama's instruction. So who is Jill A. Brisebois? Perfect for a dans les mains case. Jill Brisebois. Perfect for dans les mains. Maybe she'll work with him too. I think he got Abby Lowell though. Well, who is she? Dun 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 dun. A white girl, a white woman. Yeah, perfect. All right. So Jill A. Brisebois, ESQ. She's going to be working with them. And she's a board certified criminal law specialist. I don't know how things work out there in Minnesota, but if you're a specialist in Arizona, it's a pretty high accolade. And I am not. It takes a lot of work. So shout out to that. Now, we'll see how she does representing her. Now, the church has also responded after this invasion. And they've said in a couple things that attorneys representing City's church respond after the arrests have occurred. Renee Carlson, general counsel, said this: the Constitution and federal law protect people who gather in peace to worship God. First Amendment does not allow this. There's no press pass to come in and do this. And so we're proud to represent City's church. Another person for True North Legal says these are crimes. People like Keith Ellison mock the invasion of a church, but the DOJ acted aggressively, and we are going to protect the church and prevent further invasions. So that's what they had to say. And Harmeet Dillon was also out today. She was talking with Megyn Kelly. Shout out to Megyn Kelly. And Harmeet saying Don Lemon is not out of the woods yet. We're going to continue to keep our eyes and pressure on him. You saw his name was in the complaint along with many other names, but the judge didn't accept it. He almost didn't accept the other three, right? He nixed one of the charges on him. But I'm sure they're just warming up. And the DOJ brought this very quickly, to be honest. They could have, waited a lot longer. They didn't. So credit to them for that. But here's Harmeet today over on Megyn Kelly.
So are we going to do it?
Well, we are going to do it because that's what is required for justice here. And from Sunday, when I first saw the video that Don Lemon himself put out about his conduct that day, it was clear to me that we had the predicates for pursuing FACE Act and conspiracy. We did our homework, sent prosecutors there to the ground, took affidavits, took evidence. They buttressed the case that we could witness from Lemon's own testimony and statements and admissions against interest in his own videos. And we have aggressively and very rapidly sought legal process. Now, I will say it's been a little frustrating because for 48 hours between the time that we sought these arrest warrants and the time that we were able to make arrests and say what the judge did in refusing to sign off on Lemon's, we had to stay silent. We have certain protocols here at the Department of Justice, but he is not out of legal jeopardy. And he has lawyered up. He has a prominent lawyer. And, we're going to pursue this to the ends of the earth.
All right, Harmeet Dillon. Let's go. Hopefully they do. And Don Lemon does not escape. Now, while all this is going on, we're learning about even more fraud. It's all kind of one big scam. You start to uncover the fraud in Minneapolis. ICE starts to surge. They start to attack ICE. It's about Somalians. It's about illegal aliens. It's about criminal gangbangers, roaming free, PDF files, all the things. But now we see this very interesting report from Fox that a convicted Minnesota fraudster who's already in custody now alleges that Walz and Ellison, of course, employs the woman who's married to the judge who just didn't charge Don Lemon, were all aware of widespread fraud. And there was an interesting report that sounded like this, that included a conversation with the woman in custody herself.
And a Fox News alert also in Minnesota. The convicted ringleader of one of the state's biggest fraud schemes is speaking to Fox News from behind bars. Now, she believes that the scam was no surprise to local Democratic leaders, and she's naming names. She spoke to Alexis McAdams. Hi, Alexis.
Hey, Dana. Yeah, so everywhere you look in the state of Minnesota, right, there seems to be another fraud scam. So this one involves Amy Bach. She's a Minnesota woman convicted of fraud for taking taxpayer money that was meant to feed hungry kids. But listen to this. Bach tells me the real issue here is the state of Minnesota, which she says kept giving scammers your taxpayer money even after they were flagged as fraudsters.
I have to believe that the governor's office and Keith Ellison's office were aware of this. They've said they were involved in helping the FBI. They've said they were made aware, but apparently I'm scary, so they couldn't do anything.
So Bach ran this nonprofit called Feeding Our Future. You might have heard of it. It was one of dozens convicted in this $250 million scam. You can see her mugshot there. Prosecutors say this group set up sham restaurants. They pretended they were making these meals. They got paid by the state for those meals, but they just pocketed the cash. Bach, who's looking at 30 years behind bars, tells me the state signed off on those businesses, not her.
It all went through a process. They were all approved. They were all paid by the state, yet all the fingers are being pointed at me.
Nice.
And it's not just Bach. Whistleblowers told a congressional committee Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and Attorney General Keith Ellison there ignored warnings for years as millions of dollars and millions were stolen on their watch. Congress is investigating a long list of massive fraud schemes in the state. It's hard to keep up. Prosecutors say it's led to at least $9 billion in fraud, Dana, and counting. Congress also asking why the Attorney General there would meet with a group of Somali fraudsters, which were under FBI investigation in 2021. The group can be heard in an audio clip given to us by Bach's lawyer offering to donate to his campaign if he can help them get their funding flowing again. Ellison denies any wrongdoing here. He slammed Bach in a statement to Fox, calling her a liar, a manipulator, adding now she's on a media tour to deflect her guilt onto others instead of finally taking responsibility for this fraud scheme that she ran. So we reached out.
They sound very, very nervous with a statement like that.
Out to Governor Walz too, Dana. He didn't get back to us. House Republicans say it's just getting started. They want to subpoena Walz and Ellison because they say they're responsible for ripping off American taxpayers.
Yep, billions and billions of dollars, a lot of it. And what has it been for? Well, a lot of it has been for Leering centers and for Somalians who are very important for American culture and American existence. You know, what would we do without them? But we're going to learn more about it. And this woman to come and explain it to us, to me specifically, so that I'm not such a bigot, we're going to learn about what really being Somali is like. And I want to learn and understand the culture and the people and why we're almost on the brink of a civil war for these people. Here is this woman.
So I'm Somali. I'm proud to be Somali. To me, being Somali isn't just eating bananas with rice. It's a lot. It's like, it's an interesting thing. It's very hard to describe what it means to be Somali and what it means to be American. But it's like a cultural fusion. It's kind of like the bananas and rice. You know, people don't really see, like, you know, it's you know, people don't think, oh, you can eat bananas with rice, but that's what it's like to be Somali and American. It's like that combination of banana and rice, but you're going to get what I mean.
So it's disgusting? Is that what you're saying? I think so. But that's who they put in front of the microphone. And like, yeah, just go for it. Just tell us about what it's like to be Somali and American. I don't think it's that complicated to describe what being an American is. But they have a hard time because they're not American. So they try to come up with stupid little analogies like bananas and rice. Now, here's more of what's going on out there is Chris Mays, who's one of the worst attorneys general in the country. She is now saying, and even some might say encouraging people to go report and dox ICE agents. And then when the ICE agents are, kind of confrontational with you, you can just pull out your firearm and just start blasting fools.
Democratic Attorney General Chris Mays has a message for ICE.
We are watching you. If you violate an Arizona law, I will prosecute you.
The AG's office posted this new page on its website.
How's your prosecution of the Trump electoral case? How's that one going there for you, Chris?
Community to report alleged misconduct by federal agents, including video and images of the events in question.
We are encouraging people to send us their videos, and they have every right under the First Amendment to record those videos.
If there are confrontations between residents and ICE agents, like we've seen in other cities, Mays is concerned they could turn deadly.
But to be clear, you're not telling folks you have license if you are threatened to shoot a peace officer.
No, but again, if you're being attacked by someone who is not identified as a peace officer, how do you know?
That's one reason Mays is demanding that ICE agents remove their masks.
If somebody comes at me wearing a mask and I can't tell whether they're a police officer, what am I supposed to do?
I guess shoot them? And I think he cut something from that. Well, you're not encouraging people to what? Stand your ground? And I think there's another clip of her talking about your stand your ground laws. Let me see if I can dig that up. But here we got Warren Peterson from Arizona. He's the Senate president. He said Chris Mays is completely incompetent. Stand your ground laws do not apply to law enforcement officers, aka ICE, idiot. See ARS 13419C4. You cannot shoot an ICE officer. If you do, then you will be prosecuted for murder. Just another example of why she loses in court all the time. Her win rate is terrible because she is wrong on the facts and the law and just not too bright. Now, here was, I think, another clip. Did I just play this clip from... That was from Libs of TikTok. Let me see if this one's different.
One of them, Bram, is that we're a stand your ground
This
state.
is the one. Yeah, here, stand your ground. What is she saying? You want to shoot ICE agents, you maniac? Listen.
Bram, is that we're a stand your ground state. We have one of the most expansive stand your ground laws in the entire country that rivals even Florida. We also have a lot of guns in Arizona. We're a gun culture in this state.
We like that.
And, it's kind of a recipe for disaster because you have these masked federal officers with very little identification, sometimes no identification, wearing plain clothes and masks. And we have a stand your ground law that says that if you reasonably believe that your life is in danger and you're in your house or your car,
shoot 'em.
Or on your property, that you can defend yourself with lethal force.
Wow. All right. So then that other dude cut that out, I think, of that other clip. And you can see exactly what she's implying there. So I guess just start shooting ICE agents, and the state AG of Arizona will allow you to get away with it. Pretty sick behavior. But we talked a lot about this one this morning on the members only stream. JD Vance and many others defending the ICE agents and Homeland who were going after an illegal alien before the illegal alien abandoned his child and left him on the streets freezing cold while he tried to escape consequences for his actions. Well, ICE came out today and they explained exactly what went down. And they said Marcos Charles exposes the lies that came out from these maniacs. Lies that the media and the smears that they've sold us in the case of the 5-year-old boy, which has been a meme over the last 24 hours. ICE encountered the boy's father, a criminal illegal alien from Ecuador, who fled from officers and left his young son behind in the freezing cold, abandoning him. The boy's family even refused to take him into their house. Our officers ensured the boy's safety regardless. So great job. Amazing people who are just here, just abandoning their kids when they're inconvenient. Taking jobs the Americans won't want to do. Like what? Not caring for their kids. Great. What the media won't tell you is that after ICE detained the father, our officers spent time with the young boy, even taking him through a drive-thru for some McDonald's before reuniting him with his father. And the smears against our officers in this agency are relentless, and they continue to put our personnel at greater risk of attack, and it must end. Here is this ICE official called Marcos.
Targeted enforcement operation to arrest Adrian Alexander Conejo Arias, an illegal alien who was released back into the interior of the United States by the previous administration. When officers approached Conejo Arias, he and his child were in a vehicle. Arias fled from law enforcement on foot, abandoning his child in the middle of winter in a vehicle.
Yeah, and that's not unusual. You know, they'll just abandon him at the border, just kind of drop him off in the river. Here you go. Good luck, kid.
One of our officers stayed behind with that child while other officers apprehended his father. After conducting the arrest, my officers stayed with the child. They cared for him, took him to get something to eat from a drive-thru restaurant, and spent hours ensuring he was taken care of. Again, my officers did that, not his father. My officers did everything they could to reunite him with his family. Tragically, when we approached the door of his residence, the people inside refused to take him in and open the door.
Nice family.
Let me say it again. They saw the young boy and they refused to open the door and take him back. This is the human side of the job that my officers do. They are family men and women. They have children of their own. They sacrifice everything for their families. I know for a fact that they were heartbroken to see the child's own family leave him behind.
Sick.
Fortunately, Conejo Arias eventually requested that his child stay with him. We do everything in our power not to separate families. So they took him back together to Minneapolis, here to the city, to the ICE facility for processing, and now they are being well cared for at a family residential center, pending their immigration proceedings. This is the real face of ICE, ERO, Border Patrol, and our allied partners. The media doesn't know our officers, we do. My officers do the right thing no matter how difficult or how long it takes throughout the day.
All right, nice statement, calm, measured, just explaining what is ultimately happening here. And it makes it even more shameful to hear the media smearing these guys after learning about what they're going through. It is a horrific thing to think your father just abandons his 5-year-old in the middle of the street. Well, the good news is they're going to be treated much better without their disgusting parents looking over them. Rep. Tony Gonzalez said, in the coming days, you're going to see a lot of grandstanding by politicians at the ICE center in my district. I've been there. I've seen the state-of-the-art facilities and the protocols that are there that ICE follows. And our ICE agents and CBP personnel are doing their jobs. And yet again, Democrats are doing everything they can to spin the truth against law enforcement. And here is how things looked over at this facility. Looks nice. Learning some knowledge, shooting some hoops, playing some b-ball outside of the school, having picnics. Wow, birds chirping in the air.
That's right.
Nice. All right, so that's perfect. And they'll be nice and safe in there until they're returned home. So here's more from Bovino. He said, by the way, let's not forget, as they're screeching and shouting about a 5-year-old that an illegal alien abandoned in the streets of America, let's not forget that under Joe Biden, 450,000 children were just gone, lost or misplaced, or even placed with unvetted sponsors trafficking the kids. Noam is leading the effort to locate them. 500,000. You understand how sick that is? From this experience, ICE and CBP law enforcement have become experts in safeguarding the well-being of minors. Here's Bovino from earlier today.
Yesterday a little bit. Let's talk a little more, since we've got an illegal alien we just took off the streets of Minneapolis that was someone engaged in child neglect and endangerment. Here in the U.S. Border Patrol, I will say unequivocally that we are experts in dealing with children. Let me say that again, experts in dealing with children. Not because we want to be, but because we have to be. Over those past 4 years, hundreds of thousands of children were trafficked across that border. Guess who they came into contact with? Sometimes who was the very first law enforcement agency or American citizen that they saw? U.S. Border Patrol, followed by our counterparts at Immigration and Customs Enforcement. We're definitely the experts at dealing with children, unfortunately. Hundreds of thousands under that last administration. Not to mention the 300,000 lost children, 300,000 plus lost children that were trafficked across that border.
Yeah, and where are Ro Khanna and the Democrats on that one, huh? You know, victims of Epstein, trafficking, the abuse of young girls, all contemptible, completely detestable. We're consistent about that, at least. They're not. They are parading Kilmar around, who was apparently trafficking young girls and abusing them on the way in, and then beating his wife or threatening to beat her such that she had to go get orders of protection against him. Where are they on that? They're nowhere to be found.
Now, when we've got the news media talking about children, I'd certainly love to hear more reporting on the 300,000 lost children. How about the 14 that we recovered at that pot farm a few months ago in Camarillo, California? The 14 lost children trafficked across the border that were found working illegally on a pot farm in California. Very little reporting from the Minneapolis news media here. I didn't really hear much from you guys. And then some of the more heinous crimes against children that are trafficked across the border that ICE and Border Patrol saw daily back when that border was out of control over those past 4 years.
Nice. All right. So got to get those kids back. And the Trump administration in securing the border is stopping the continuation of that trafficking. But for some reason, many sanctuary cities, many sanctuary states throughout our country are in favor of more of that, not less. And so now we're seeing arrests being made. Cases have been unsealed for these three. And we're, of course, going to keep our eyes on this one. It is the start of something good, but we're not done yet. There's many other people who are there, many others who are hopefully going to be identified. And we'll continue to see what the DOJ does and how they maneuver around perhaps a very conflicted judge called Miko, who is now preventing charges from coming against Don Lemon. We're going to continue to keep our eye on this one and follow it until justice is secured across the board. Thank you for subscribing and joining us as we do. Now, we're not done yet. We got a little bit more to attend to before we hear from you on this one. And this one is nice and fun. And it is involving Fanone. Disgraced January 6th cop Michael Fanone, who had a meltdown in Congress this week, is now also getting asked important questions by Lindell TV. Kara Castronova, apologies. She was able to stop Mr. Fanone on the way out of the hearing after Ivan Raiklin, like a gentleman, extended his hand with brotherly love and affection and said, just shake hands here, put her there, pal. Fanone lost his mind, went AWOL, and started puffing up, almost attacking him. And on the way out, Kara had a question for him about his body cam footage from back on January 6th. Here's how it went down.
Officer Fanone, how are you today?
Oh, I'm great.
What happened in there?
What are you talking about?
That confrontation.
Jack Smith testified about how he had proof beyond reasonable doubt that Donald Trump incited, orchestrated, and funded the insurrection at the Capitol on January 6, 2021.
It seemed like there was a fight in there?
No, there was no fight.
Is it true, Officer Fanone, that you turned off your own body camera on January 6th?
No.
I saw your body cam. You turned it off yourself. You were playing dead. I saw your body cam footage.
You're a fucking
What am I?
right-wing conspiracy theorist.
I saw you turn off your body cam footage, sir. But thank you for disrespecting me. Psychopath.
Oh, she's so great. All right, so shout out to Kara Castronova. And I love that. What am I? What am I? Go ahead, say it. What am I?
You're a fucking...
Yeah. All right, so that's their guy. That's their J6 hero. He was, remember, paraded around. Nancy Pelosi was giving him the old, little chesty chest tappy tap right there. Oh, you're so brave and heroic. And look at her face. Thank you for saving us. And here's another one with a little back shoulder grab. And another one with a hug. And they covered up all those tats. They were able to give him some Xanax or something for like 2 years and just keep him chilled out. But now he's lost it. And this is what it looked like yesterday. They had to hold his hand. Even his fellow cops know he's a maniac. And Ivan was just having a nice conversation. Just said, hi, just want to say hello. Nice to see you in Congress. And then reminded him that he's totally dominating him right now. And so Fanone had a meltdown. Even the big guy had to come and pull him back. So the J6, Capitol Hill, Backstreet Boys all assembled. It's not worth it. And they had to drag him out of there. But this is another interesting piece of footage that has also come out today that we are seeing here, courtesy of John M. Cameron. He says, I am a J6er. Here is Fanone being saved by the J6ers. Said, Fanone is a thug and a liar. You saw who he is yesterday. He beat Antifa rioters who then retaliated and pulled him back into the crowd to be tased. Trump supporters helped him back onto his post. Any J6er who helped him was ultimately charged with assault. He lied about his heart attack and his brain injury. God bless the J6ers. And you can see it right here as people are pulling him up to get him out of there, many of them in MAGA hats. And it was a wild scene because they were being shot at from the upper terrace where Shawnee Kirkhoff was, blasting people in the mouth. So Fanone was down there, and you can see all these guys. Hey, man. Hey, helping him out. It's a lot of pressure. It's like a rock concert. Everybody's crammed in, So they're pulling him out and getting him out of the scene. And then he turns around and blames them all for, trying to murder him. And then Ivan Raiklin wants to shake his hand and he has a meltdown. And that's coming from a J6er called John M. Cameron, sharing the footage here today. So we're happy to see that. Now, we also are learning more about the entire J6 scam because this guy, same guy who was very mad about the desecration of Congress, right? The guy who was very upset about the violation of the sanctity of the halls and, his job and all the things. He comes there, he's coughing under his breath, saying F you, and then holding up, the F-bomb, all inside of a congressional hearing without any real concern for the insurrection of that proceeding. But we're also seeing that Jamie Raskin, they love this dude, right? As long as he is playing the role, they'll continue to shake his hand. Julie Kelly says, amazing. He provoked a near physical confrontation, told a Capitol Hill police officer to get the F away from me, just as you see here. Ivan Raiklin saying, remember this? Look, she was telling her, back up, don't touch me, get away from me.
Don't touch me. Do not fucking touch me.
Whoa! Then turns right around and shakes Jamie Raskin's hand. So this guy was right front and center of the entire charade, the entire J6 scam that was, of course, instigated by Liz Cheney, Benny Thompson, and the illegally constituted J6 committee. We have a new J6 committee now, and this is Chairman Loudermilk. He sends a second letter to Carlin Younger, the woman who apparently discovered the first pipe bomb near the RNC back on January 6th. It was a weird situation because if she discovered the bomb on January 6th, well, then that means that it wasn't planted on January 5th, according to her testimony, because she says she went down to do her laundry and it wasn't there and then came back and found it. So here's what the letter said. All right, Carlin, I sent you a letter before back on December 8th and you haven't responded to me. I was asking you to come in for a transcribed interview, but to date, you have failed to respond to our request to talk to you. So accordingly, we are reiterating this request. This is Congress, and it's rude to not respond to us. Now, despite possessing critical information since February 21, the FBI, under the leadership of Wray, failed to identify the suspect who planted the pipe bomb outside the RNC and the DNC for nearly 4 years. Now, in light of Wray's failures in this investigation, it is crucial that Congress consider legislative reforms to prevent this failure from happening again. And for example, Congress may consider activity and legislation to fortify the FBI's investigative protocol for IEDs. As highlighted in our previous request to you, given your discovery and subsequent interactions with the FBI when you discovered the bomb behind the RNC, you are uniquely situated to provide info about the circumstances surrounding the FBI's response to the pipe bomb at the RNC. The Supreme Court has also recognized we have broad powers to conduct these investigations, and we're going to be doing that. Your testimony is critical to advance our oversight, so please contact us no later than February 5th by 10 a.m. If you have a lawyer, tell them to contact us because we want to talk to you. So Carlin, please respond and do it now. Now, another letter also went out. This one from Congress to Kash Patel from the new J6 Select Subcommittee, writing, all right, Kash, we appreciate your work here to restore trust to the FBI. But unfortunately, Biden wrecked it. The reputation was severely tarnished. One driver of this reputational damage was the handling of January 6th, the pipe bomb investigation and all the things. And so we write for more information to better understand how Christopher Wray botched this whole thing. Now, despite possessing the critical information since February 21, the Wray FBI failed to identify the now apprehended alleged pipe bomber called Brian Cole. There was 3 evidentiary buckets. They failed all of them. Cell phone data, failed. License plate reader, failed. Financial transaction data, failed. Then all of a sudden, a recent select subcommittee hearing examining this case, this person called John Nance, he's a 20-year veteran of the FBI. He came and he told us in Congress, he said, the FBI likely knew Cole's identity back in February. He knew. They knew who he was a long time ago. So why didn't they tell us? So internal FBI operational updates generated during the investigation provide a glimpse into how Wray and the FBI investigation unfolded. In fact, Kash, according to one update that is dated February 3rd, the FBI had identified 186 numbers of interest derived from the FBI analysis of geofence and cell tower dumps. In addition, the update also noted 36 numbers currently out as interview leads, 36 numbers, 51 numbers identified as not needing further action, phones belonging to law enforcement or other people on an exclusion list, like maybe a CIA agent, or assessed by the case team to need no further investigation. 98 numbers still have pending baselines and interviews and need further workup. That was back in February. Now, the alleged pipe bomber, Cole, was a T-Mobile user. The FBI operational updates from 21 show that FBI had T-Mobile data as early as J2921. As such, around the time that the FBI identified 186 numbers, Cole's number should have been on the list. Although there were several ways that the FBI should have flagged Cole, it was not until Kash came in that you guys discovered this. Then, in October 25, the FBI, under your direction, Kash, created a red team to put fresh eyes on the case. And remarkably, this team, comprised of law enforcement officers from outside the FBI, analyzed the evidence and said, oh, it's Brian Cole. They got him in 6 weeks. The red team found that Cole's cell phone was in fact within the vicinity at the time of the planting of the devices. A vehicle registered to him was also there around the time, and that he made purchases that matched, again, all 3 buckets. So all of this information was held by Wray, but it still took 4 years to find him. And so accordingly, we would like to know why you failed so badly. Rather, the FBI failed so badly before. Here's some questions for you, Kash. 1, was Cole's cell phone number included in this list of 186 phone numbers identified back in Feb 3, 2021? If so, was his cell phone number one of the 36 phone numbers about which agents were assigned to conduct interviews? Or was it on the exclusion list? Or was it on the we need more investigation list? 2, as new data was produced and evaluated by the Wray FBI, was Cole's cell phone number ever among a number of interest lists? If so, when? Was it first recognized? What prompted the FBI to stop investigating him? If not, how was his cell phone number overlooked? So what was the FBI specific criteria for assigning telephone numbers to the exclusion list? Also, in March 21, the FBI discovered through the results of a search warrant, pipe bomb DC search that occurred on J5, 2021, but before the pipe bombs had been discovered. That's weird. Has the FBI identified this Google user? If so, was the user Cole or someone associated with him? So someone searched for pipe bomb DC on J5. Who searched for that? According to the FBI operational updates, 2 witnesses also described the suspect as a white male. How did the testimony influence the Ray scrutiny of Cole? And how did the Ray FBI use this and their statements? So we'd like all of this. We'd like to review all the files associated with this investigation numbered here, and please send it to us soon. As you know, we're Congress. We're asking nicely. Cash, please help. Thank you for your prompt attention to this matter. Sincerely, Barry Loudermilk from Congress. So the J6 scam, I think, continues to unravel. We've got the Fanone and the Spice Girl Capitol Hill police team there melting down. They played a useful role. They were just, basically acting for Liz and a part of their Hollywood production. But now as the truth is coming out, the pressure cooker continues to increase in pressure, and Fanone can't handle it. Snapping, popping off in the middle of Congress. So we're going to keep our eye on this, see what else we're able to learn about this giant charade. Thank you for subscribing and joining as we do. All right, my friends, it's been a beautiful stream. Happy Friday. Hopefully you're staying warm out there. We had a lot that we unpacked today, starting with these 3 individuals who were arrested, now have their cases unsealed. We went through basically the entire docket, so we're up to speed. We read through the affidavit, the criminal complaint, looked at the back and forth about release conditions, saw the arguments that were made by both sides, and ultimately found the judge, let him go, let him out. Said they don't need to post a bond. They can walk free. A Biden judge making that decision. We also saw that the charges are a little bit different than we were expecting. It really looks like it's only one charge, conspiracy against rights, and not the essentially parallel FACE Act violation. Everybody moving accordingly on that basis. We've got a new attorney, a white woman who got hired by the BLMers, which is interesting. The church responded here. Harmeet Dillon was out. We learned that there's massive fraud. Even the woman in prison is now calling it out, saying that Walls and Ellison knew all about it. This woman has a message for America. It's like bananas and rice. And I don't think she's talking about rice pudding or something. But here is more. We saw Chris Mays saying, just go shoot ICE agents, basically. Arizona Attorney General just saying, go take them out. The 5-year-old hoax, we smashed that one. And we heard that Bovino is working on recouping the 500,000 kids that were stolen under Joe Biden. Then we turned our attention to Michael Fanone, who had a meltdown yesterday and who didn't have a nice exchange with Cara Castronova. Shout out to her over from Lindell TV. Got to see some footage of what ultimately happened back on January 6th. And now this guy's melting down, shaking hands with the Democrats, threatening Capitol Hill police. And Barry Loudermilk, the lone rep seemingly on the new committee, digging in, trying to find answers about the pipe bombs and who really may be behind them. And so it's been a beautiful stream, my friends. But now it's time to hear from you. And thank you for being here. Thank you for subbing up to our channel. Thanks for liking the video. And I hope your week was just amazing. Now let's see who's joining us. I think I saw a couple donos come in. Let's see if we do. We got a couple of them, man. Amazing. Muffin Rando, Donut, John in the house. Clipping for us. You guys rock. And friends, thanks for sending these in. Oh, wow. That's beautiful. It's Gavin and Soros all together. Oh, here's the president. Here's Trump making a couple of notations on the mugshot. F-A-F-O. It's beautiful. And once they get Don Lemon in here, they're not going to need to put 2 letters on her head, because one of those can go right on Don's forehead. Perfect. Hey, John Lynn, 24 months as a member. John, happy 2-year anniversary to us. Thanks for being here for so long. 2 years supporting and watching the channel grow. Thank you for the content from the UK. That's super cool. Shout out to John Lynn. Sorry, I get a little harsh on the UK sometimes. It's out of love, you know. It is out of love. I don't know what they're doing to you guys over there. So I'm happy that you're here. Thanks for being here, John. Really appreciate that. That's awesome. We've been through a lot together. It's been a good time. Chubby's here. Newsom. Oh my gosh, this just leaked. Newsom went to a Coldplay concert, and they got him on the Jumbotron at the WEF at Davos on his Davos trip. It's Gavin and George Soros' son. Wow, they look so happy together. They're perfect for each other. Kat, what's up? Hey, welcome, Kat. Grab the members only stream from this morning. We had a great one. What did we talk about? Oh, Trump suing JP Morgan for $5 billion. JP Morgan debanked the president and many other people, but they kept Epstein banked hard. They love that guy. Sassy Gemini, what's up? Perhaps this has already been addressed, but if during the investigation, comms are received via FOIA discovery, and they prove through those comms that Lemon was involved in planning or conspiracy, wouldn't that prove probable cause, allowing for charges and arrest of Lemon? Yeah, but I guess, what would the FOIA discovery be? Like, are you talking about like local cops gathering evidence? So you'd like do a FOIA on the police investigation, and that investigation would show that they uncovered something that implicates Don Lemon? So normally when you're talking about, you know, FOIA, you're not getting stuff like in an active criminal case. Like if there's an open investigation, you know, you're not getting it through FOIA. It's an open investigation. We're not giving it to you. You can't just like have unfettered access to a lot of things unless they're willing to disclose it to you, or maybe they're using it in a grand jury proceeding or something. So it would depend on what we're looking to get with FOIA, who the subject of the FOIA is, and what evidence you expect to find. And then you'd have to bring that to a judge and see if a judge believes that's reasonable. But I thought there was plenty of cause just based on what we read in their complaint. Don Lemon was there before, during, and after, was communicating with them about it, was hiding his audience from the insider information that he clearly knew. So I think it's more about the judge than it is about the evidence. But it's an interesting tactic, Sassy Gemini. I like it. Orchid Isle, what's up? Says, does the FACE Act only apply to abortion clinics? And no, it doesn't, actually. It says right here, place of religious worship. 18 U.S. Code 248, freedom of access to clinic entrances and places of religious worship. But to a point I didn't make earlier is I think the reason the judge nixed this is because he doesn't think that there was threat of force or physical obstruction, right? I'm guessing is what his argument is. It doesn't reach that. It's not force. It's not threat of force, which I would disagree with, but it's probably his basis. And I wasn't there, obviously, when he denied that or there were arguments, but I'm sure it will come out. Chubby says, personal knowledge. Does this judge mean what he heard the seditious AG proclaim during Lemon's podcast he was on? Or was it a mandate given to his wife by the same previously mentioned AG whom employs her? Yeah, that's a great question. I think this judge should be conflicted off. I mean, his wife works for Ellison. Ellison said you can't charge Lemon. Now the judge is saying you can't charge Lemon. That's curious. Thank you, Chubby. Doan, child endangerment charges are definitely in order. All sorts of local state charges could be brought against these people, no doubt. But they won't. They won't do it. If these were like white nationalists or like neo-Nazis or something, they would all, of course, have felony indictments already. But these are BLMers and Don Lemons, so they can get away with a lot more. Local cops in favor of it. Hey, Highline 9, local prosecutors. Not sure the local cops are, but the prosecutors are for sure. Highline 9. Membo for 20 months. William Kelly is Jack Smith's doppelganger. That's pretty funny. Yeah. Yeah, I can see it. I can see it. I actually really can see it now that you mention it. Is that Jack Smith? Is he just mad he's not a real boy? Now he's got to go attack the Christians? That's funny. Highline 9, good eye. Chubby Stubby, how is Don constantly proclaiming he knows what's happening and won't reveal any of it, while also warning other participants not to reveal anything? How is that not participation, let alone conspiracy? What a ridiculous judge that is. I agree. He knows. Yeah, Lemon was a part of it. Again, he was amplifying it. They were performing for him, and he was amplifying their performance. It was a symbiotic relationship. It's like one guy goes in, robs the bank, the other guy's the getaway driver, but you need both of them to count the cash. They needed both. Gauntlet KI. Judge sounds compromised. How do you get a new one? Well, so first of all, you're appealing this judge, right? So we did get a new one on his order to release them. On the order to, I think, yeah, you might try to just get a different judge and a different filing with different charges. See if you get assigned something different. But I think grand jury might be the other just end run around. Just bypass the judge completely and just go to a grand jury. But the grand jury may not indict in that county, or rather that state. Dan Sundin, you would think that pastors around the country would be up in arms regarding this invasion of this church. But what is actually happening is for many pastors going to Minnesota to protest the actions of ICE instead. What would these individuals do if their own church was taken over by anarchists? Fun fact, because stepfather is a reverend, retired, who is getting these notifications. Yeah, I don't know. I think that pastors everywhere should be furious about this. If this is something that's becoming the norm, what do? You just pray for him, I guess? That feels a little lacking. Elvis of Dallas, what's up? Whoa! Elvis of Dallas? How the heck did I get to 15 months? Wow. Man, Elvis of Dallas. We haven't seen you in a while. Very nice to see you. Thanks for being here for 15 months. That's almost 2 babies. Coming soon. Thanks for being here. We're glad that you're here. Thanks for supporting us for so long. Hi, Michael. What a nice... Is that little baby Donkey Kong? Michael Hall. What's up, Michael Hall? The left has claimed for years that speech is violence. That's right. Exactly right. Stochastic violence. If you say something mean about the T's, you want them dead. Which we don't. Just want some normalcy in our lives. That's all. So their protest was violent by their own definition and was in fact premeditated as per Don Lemay. You're right about that. Yeah, they basically were murdering people. They murdered children on that day. That's their standard. And that's why they were so satisfied about it. Don even admitted that, right? He was satisfied that that child was traumatized. He, on the way out, was walking around in the snow, was gratified. This is what protesting is about. We did it. It's a sick ideology. Thank you, Michael Hall. We appreciate that. Gary Herman, this is so scary. Substitute these protesters with KKK and Baptists with Black Church in the 20s in the South, and it's a slam dunk. But then again, it was the Democrats back then too. Happens both ways, but race roles are reversed. Shaking my head. Yeah, and I think there's still a little bit of stigma. It's like if you speak up about this, it's like you're speaking out against the BLMers, or it's like, is that racist? Are you allowed to do that? Yeah, you are, 100%. Jay Marino, if you believe in the righteousness of your cause, you proudly accept the consequences. Scurrying like little, creatures when a light is turned on just exposes the hypocritical virtue signaling. Yeah, and then they run out. They, don't come into their private space, their home, but they can go invade your private space, the church. Don't lodge your objections against them. They feel threatened and scared, but they can come into your place and threaten and scare you. Rules for them, but they don't apply to us. Jay Marino, do the same thing in a Planned Parenthood clinic. Look forward to remand in solitary. That's already happened. They sentence people to prison for praying in front of an abortion clinic. Prison. Years, like 5-6 years in prison. Don Lemon's a journalist, though, so he can do whatever he wants. Trino Galaxy, again, the DOJ, I think, is on it. So we got to get past the judge, but there's still multiple vectors. Trino Galaxy, a judge that lets proven court jumpers go free should be personally at fault when those people don't show up. We need consequences for these judges. Yeah, if you're going to release them and an illegal goes and murders somebody, the judge should be responsible for that. Yeah, I agree. Hey, what's going on? Dark Rogue. At this point, are judges now the new lords and kings of our country since they can rule arbitrarily and without consequence? It seems so to me. Funny, they said no kings. Yeah, and then until recently, they were issuing nationwide injunctions like some California judge or Maryland judge. I am now the Queen of America. No illegal aliens can be deported anywhere. I'm Judge Zenas. Look at me. That's how it's been. And it's obviously insane. It's not how it's supposed to be. And we need Chuck Grassley to allow some nominees to come out of committee. Thank you for that, Dark Rogue. Paul Allen, 8 months as a membo. I assert that Chantil, spelled right, who the hell knows, is not a real Allen, says Paul Allen. That makes sense to me. Yeah, because the Alan is a very good, strong name, and nobody named Alan would commit such a heinous offense. Thank you, Paul, for being here for 8 months as a membo. And you guys don't even look alike, too, also. So probably not. You're the real Alan. Will the real Paul Allen please stand up? Thank you, Paul. Hey, Jay Marino, considering that it's awfuls, angry white female urban liberals, the awfuls, are behind all the insanity, maybe Muhammad might have had a point. Jay Marino, I don't even know what you're implying there. That they should be in burqas? Is that what you're saying? Maybe that's true. But not for religious reasons, just for ease of eyesight, you know? Gary Herman, what's up, Gary? Banana and rice. Wow, I feel so culturally enriched after listening to that lady. I'm enriched. I feel like, wow, I understand the Somalian plight now. I can't wait to end the stream and go have some bananas and rice. Off-label pod. Hope everyone is ready for the storm. Yeah, it's going to be cold. I'm going to be inside all weekend, and as long as power and net hold up, Off-Label and the Stupids play will be live. Amazing. So check out our friend Off-Label Podcast right next door. We'll be streaming throughout the winter season, no doubt. Hey, Chubby, recipe for disaster, then tweak the recipe and do what you're constitutionally required to work with, the federal government. Sorry for the shouting. I'm just fed up with blatantly criminally seditious behavior by state AGs. Yeah, I think you're talking about Chris Mays. He's like, wow, these guns are going to be such a dangerous thing because we let illegals come in and murder our people. Trump Sword, what's up? A side benefit in my small northwest Wisconsin county is since the mostly peaceful riots began in New Somalia, Minnesota, local dimwits are gone. Where'd they go? They just left? They're like, we're getting the hell out of here before Somalia goes up to northwest Wisconsin. It's not good, man. Shout out to the president. Look at those moves. Keep it up, Mr. President. Dan, regarding the Arizona election, each of us need to have conversations with those who will listen. Don't waste your time with the Democrats. They only represent 28.7%. The sum of all the other political parties referred to as others represent 36% of registered voters. Make a difference by starting that conversation. Yeah, some of them are too far gone. Their brains are fried into mush, and there's no hope there. But for others, they may be salvageable. Boopsie, my theory is the Capitol hires rejects for Capitol Police, like some kind of a charity. Fanone, Bird, and Lilla Morris are examples. They're mentally ill and aren't even trained how to be a cop. Maybe they got so used to being untouchable, they figured they don't really need good security. Yeah, I don't know. They all seem a little odd. Like those four, they definitely seem odd. Like not one of them seems like just a normal dude who's out there. Like I've met a lot of cops. They all seem a little quirky and a little bit weird. Like every class, you have kind of the weird kid in class. You can probably manipulate. They kind of feel like that to me. It's kind of that weird kid in class. Except Capitol Police is huge. So they have a bunch of weird kids. They just got all four of them and put them together into the Backstreet Boys. Rob, that was amazing about Jack Smith's hearing. Thank you, Rob. It was amazing. That was a wild scene yesterday. Shout out to Ivan Raikland for drawing that out of him. Hilarious. Totally dominated him. Totally. Claudia McAllister. What's up, Claudia? Welcome aboard. Great to see you. And members, we'll have our members only stream tomorrow on Saturday. So hopefully we see you there. Gauntlet KI says Arizona AG says protesters can be blasted via a castle law. No, she's saying ICE agents can be blasted. If you come in and arrest an illegal alien, he has the right to stand his ground and shoot you in America. He doesn't even right to be here. That's our AG. Mock Schnell, what's up? 10 membos are here. Thank you, Mock Schnell. You're amazing. Thanks for bringing them in on this lovely Friday for our Saturday stream tomorrow. Michael W. in the house. We got Lurchlinger, Will Call Magic, SS Goddamn June Man in the house. What's up? Kelly Animus. We got here Robin Schaefer, Tomaz Jasinski. We got Trippin Williams, Christy Shortridge, Golden Gaming, What's Up, and Allergy 31. All gifted membos, courtesy of Mock Schnell. Yeah, Lemon, LA Captain, can definitely still be indicted by grand jury. All we're trying to do is just establish probable cause for the charging and the charges. And so they could present to a grand jury, but I think that's slower for sure. And you risk a no bill, right? You risk them not indicting him. like has happened in other cases that we've seen before, because they're all nullifying these prosecutions and these blue locations as part of the soft secession, essentially. Smooth Brain Crypto. Did Lemon Dawn find the FACE Act journalist loophole? So he's trying that, yeah, and we may have seen that come out. I don't know what the conversation was or why the judge struck the probable cause specifically. But for whatever reason, he found it didn't apply to Dawn. Maybe First Amendment, maybe because Dawn came in after the fact. Don't know exactly, but hopefully we learn more. He should be charged. You know, James O'Keefe, Steve Baker, Owen Schroyer, they all got charged. Rob, what's up? It's funny how these protesters call ICE Nazis. They should see what is happening with protesters being shot in Iran in large numbers. There's a reason there was an internet blackout in Iran. Yeah, we haven't really talked about that at all here because, you know, it's foreign policy and we care about America. But yeah, it's been a big problem over there. Apparently it's been like a bloodbath, my understanding is. But they call everybody a Nazi for everything. If you're a Republican, Charlie Kirk was a Nazi. He didn't deport anybody. He just talked on a microphone. So it doesn't matter. It's not even about your actions. It's about your beliefs. And you have to believe orthodoxy and communism through and through, or else you're the enemy, really. But we're not slaves, and so we don't play their games, obviously. Now, let's see. We got some comments on locals, and then we'll wrap it up on the day, my friends. It's going to be a beautiful night, and then Membos will be back tomorrow on Saturday to see what the day has for us. Sergeant Bob says, okay, to illegals. Before you act on May's advice, be aware that LEOs have a hell of a lot more firearms training than you. Make sure your will is made out. Yeah, we don't want anyone getting shot. It would be nice if we didn't have sanctuary policies that protected criminal illegals. I think that Congress needs to look into establishing a clause or amendment to the First Amendment on how far and to what extent the First Amendment can be expressed by protesters, rioters, and agitators. There needs to be limits to this amendment to keep things under control. Whoa, Jessica, that's a pretty provocative statement there. Limiting the First Amendment is risky, right? Because then you can lose your speech. And by the way, there are already rules on this. They're called time, place, and manner restrictions. And you're not allowed to protest wherever you want without any regard for those restrictions. And what they did was already criminal. So I don't think we need to, really limit the First Amendment. We just need to enforce the protections that already exist inside the First Amendment rather than changing it. Because when you start playing around with amendments to anything, you really risk that they could just delete it. What if a protester or rioter or agitator, what if an agitator is somebody who says something mean about the T's? Are you agitating online? Should you be censored and silenced because you're being an agitator? We agitate all day here. Peacefully and patriotically, politically in the right forum. We're not breaking into churches. So that's my only response. Jessica, since children were hurt physically, emotionally, and mentally, couldn't they file charges on Don Lemon? Yeah, that's differently. I think that they could file, the parishioners could file civil claims against all these people for, like IIED, super rare claim, but intentional infliction of emotional distress. Don said multiple times that he wanted to come in here and make things uncomfortable. So yeah, hit him with a civil claim. And if the Republicans and the Republican side, like on the right, if we had all of the same legal institutions that were built out top to bottom, like the left has, they've got, look at all the lawyers who came skidding in to the Kilmar case, like dozens. We should have that for our side. It should be like dozens of like Christian law firms out there who just badasses of all badasses. Oh, we're going to sue every freaking agitator who was there and just, go after them for all these civil claims for traumatizing kids and breaking the arms of nice ladies. So yeah, hardened patriot. Kash Patel fires agents linked to lawfare against Trump. Let's go, Kash. Hell yeah. Sounds awesome. Hey, The Veil, what's going on? I hope that Ivan sues the Capitol Police with the tats. Yeah, for defamation. He's talking about it. I'm now really curious to find out if Discovery will show if the officer received money off the books from Pelosi and Democrats or Pompeo to lie under oath. I did get your email, The Veil. Thank you for that. I will read it. You got a lot going on over there. So thanks for sending it. Walk it off. Wow, she and Kamala can be bestie and they can talk about nothing forever. I'm talking about Kamala and maybe Chris Mays. Yeah, They love each other. Hey, Sadie, Rob, I'm learning legal art. You're good at it. It's a lot more fun than legal writing. Are you making fun of our underlining, Sadie? Is that what this is? Well, first of all, it's beautiful. It looks amazing. The font width, the fluidity, and the straight lines, it's just like a work of art. You're basically like Van Gogh. I'm going to put that on my mantle as soon as we're done with the show. Dan, this is Caddy Chivigny, the wife of Jack Smith. She directed the films called E-Team, Becoming 2020, and The Easy Kind. She was born in the USA, and she's a director. And she's standing in front of the American flag that her husband burnt to the ground. Rude. Hey, Dan, what's going on? Said different hair and color, but that might be her. The lady might be suffering from Parkinson's or something. All right, so we'll be nice. I don't know who that is, so we'll be nice. All right, thank you for that, Dan. What's going on, Jessica? Thanks for those comments. Sergeant Bob, great to see you in the house. And my friends, it's been a beautiful day. Thanks for being here, and thanks. Happy Friday. Stay warm, bundle up, start a fire, get some hot chocolate, get snuggly with your loved one, and all the things. All right, we got some other comments, and then we'll wrap on the day. Trump's Sword, what's up? Said to clarify the first super dono. The weirdos that start garbage with visible Trump supporters like myself went to join their masters in Minnesota. Hope the feds keep them. And let's see what that first comment was. Wow, that was amazing about Jack Smith's hearing. No, that was a different one from Trump's Sword. Here's the first one. A side benefit in my small northwestern Wisconsin county is that mostly peaceful riots began in New Somalia. Local dimwits are gone. Second part, the weirdos that start garbage. Oh, got it. Okay. I see. So the weird, Antifa, anti-ICE, BLMers, they all left. Minnesota's like a magnet that's drawing all the freak shows out there. That's good. At least you don't have to deal with them. Jay Marino, speech that demeans on the basis of race, ethnicity, gender, disability, or all those things is hateful. But the proudest boast of our free speech jurisprudence is that we protect the freedom to express the thought that we hate. Yep. Good decision. Yeah, we do express the thought that we hate. We don't have hate speech laws or any of those things. This is America. You're allowed to hate people and be a bigot if you want to. You're allowed to say whatever you want. And people can be offended, but you're allowed to speak. This is America. Don't like it, go live in another country. All right, my friends, it's been a beautiful, beautiful day and a beautiful stream and a heck of a week. Thanks for being here and going through it all with us together. We'll pause. Hey, Barb, what's up? Barb's over on X. Says, hey, AG Mays, how does a person removing his mask identify him as ICE? Whether a person has a mask or not, if he says he's with ICE, maybe just believe him and comply. Yeah, and many of them do have face coverings on, but then they have their badge hanging around their neck right there. Or they're in an ICE vehicle that says ICE. We don't know who they are. All right. Yes, you do. You're just crying about the fact that you don't want your friends to be deported. Hey, Al Holman, another great week of shows. Thanks. And go Seahawks, man. Shout out to our football fans out there. Al, thank you for being here. Thanks for following us over on X and saying hello. And Neuro D. Good to see you, Neuro. Thanks for sharing the Rumbles link. Man, shout out to our Rumble friends. Nate Beans is over there. Badass dude's over there. What's up, Prioritize? Jay Ma says, Jim Ma, it's not free speech unless we hate are allowed to say things we don't like. Yeah, like if it's only like you have to be polite to everybody and just like shackle your speech to whatever the authorities say. It's not freedom at all. You're allowed to hate everybody. I don't encourage it or recommend it. And there are consequences for that, of course. Like people can say, oh, you're a hateful person. Oh, you're a bigot. Oh, you're a racist. We don't want to associate with somebody who has those values. That's great, actually. We want more of that. We want people to reveal themselves, reveal who they are. Don't hide it in the shadows. But that's dangerous for the people in charge because you might speak some truth and they don't know what to do about that. So, my friends, it's been a beautiful stream. Thank you for hanging with us. Members, if you just joined up, grab the morning stream from this morning. We also were on with Brianna Mello this morning over at InfoWars. That was a ton of fun. So if you're looking for some more stuff to watch, we got some of that. Check out her stuff and make sure you're following her because she's awesome. And then Members, we'll be back tomorrow for our Saturday stream. Hopefully we see you then. But if we don't see you back tomorrow, we're coming back next week to get into it again. We can't wait to do it. Before we close it out on the day, amazing thanks to our mods and meme smiths. Thank you goes out to, of course, John in the house. We got Muffin Rando. We got Donut Mind Me. Thanks to K Bean and Carrie B modding the fort down for us. We got Neuro D, Janik, and Dog Digger holding things down on Rumble. Geegum Geegum, Elliot, and Just Rhonda, our meme smiths extraordinaire. My friends, it's been a beautiful week. Thanks for being here. I hope you're doing something fun this weekend. Spending time with family, friends, the people that we love, unplugging from politics, getting outside, getting some fresh air, some vitamin D without freezing to death, because that might actually happen this weekend. So maybe stay inside, watch a good series, and stay warm and bundled up. But my friends, we'll come back on Monday. We'll get into it again. Thanks for joining us as we do, because when we do come back, we need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very, very well. We'll see you right back here on Monday. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching, my beautiful friends. Now it's that time where the stream must end. You brought the heat with every chatting line. Together we expose corruption. One more time we dove in the truth where the media hides. Lit up the lies with receipts on all sides. The fight isn't over, but we made them sweat. We ain't done yet, no, not just yet. Because together we are watching the watchers. Truth on our side. Watching the watchers. We won't be denied. Watching the watchers. Eyes open wide. Fighting for freedom with nothing to hide. Drop a like and don't forget to share. And bring a friend who's ready to care. Tomorrow's lies are just today's news, but here we see through